Hey everyone, welcome to the Nintendo Prime Podcast, episode number 7. How you guys doing today? Hopefully having a good day. We are live for this episode because from now until E3, we got to test different setups, different settings, different things, and it's best to do it when I have Eric here and a guest on and all that jazz, because when I just do it on my normal live streams, how do I know everything's working? Because it's just me. I need to know it works with other people, including a guest, which we have today in Mr. GameOverJesse.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for inviting me on again. I loved being on before you had the podcast. I loved being on one of the first episodes as a guest, and I'm happy to return, especially with all the great topics and rumors that you have to discuss today.
Oh boy. God, you guys you're in for a treat today. There's more info even since I sent you stuff, Jesse. This is I can barely keep up. That's how crazy. We're going to kind of section it off as we talk about the leaks, the rumors here, because we have a real super legit source on a bunch of stuff. Switch Pro, Zelda 35th anniversary, a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll get into why this is a legit source, although I can't reveal certain details because I've verified this, and I can't exactly explain how it's verified. But I'll give you the details on that. Also, as always, we have our hostess. Yes, the hostess.
Hostess. Oh.
Right across from me, Mr. Eric Moore.
Hello.
And yes, folks, he will be joining us on our E3 streams. He should be there on the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. If anything happens before then, well, it's just going to be the solo show. Maybe on the 11th if it's like a nighttime thing, but we'll worry about that. That's a Friday thing. Because I'm sure I'm going to have to convince Eric to come spend the Friday night since we're probably starting right away in the morning.
Really not that hard to convince me.
Yep. Eric, come over, E3.
All right.
We got to run a dry run today.
You're going to have to find a pool healing.
Oh, my gosh. Right? I'm going to have to make sure the pool's set up out in the yard. So, obviously, between at least my channel and GameOverJesse's, we've been covering a ton of rumors because it's just that time of the year. It's that time of the year, right? Like, every time around this time, E3 is coming up. We have major anniversaries going on. Hey, rumors are flying out. I know Jesse's got a bunch of people like talking to him behind the scenes. Like, you know, he just did his podcast, I think, last night and talked about a bunch of rumors on there, including a new Metroid rumor. Maybe we'll get into that a little later. And obviously on my channel, you guys know for at least the last 3 weeks, it's been a ton of rumors. But I don't like to just throw things out there to like trick you guys, right? I don't want to try to give you false information, right? Which, by the way, is the stream even going?
I'm watching.
Is it working? We're all good?
It's all good, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm on Wi-Fi on my laptop, so it's like buffering over here. Let me turn down the settings. I think it's all the way down at 144p. It doesn't get any lower than that.
Nice.
All right. So, these are the kind of technical difficulties good to sort out now before we get to the big show, because during E3 we have a bunch of stuff, and towards the end of this podcast I am going to reveal who some of our partners are for E3. So not all of them, but I'll reveal some pretty exciting stuff. We're giving away a lot of games. Like today I had a new partner join us for E3 and give us 50 game codes.
That's 50.
Yeah,
50.
50. Yeah. By my count, there's going to be over 345 people winning something during E3.
Whoa.
That's right now. We have other email exchanges going on, more things happening. Just stay tuned. It's going to be great. So let's just dive right in because we have so much to talk about. And we're going to start with where we're getting all this information from, because it's all coming from one source, at least the stuff from my end. And we're talking about Samus Hunter 2. Now, Samus Hunter 2 is a Twitter account, which, okay, right, tons of Twitter accounts. But if you go through Samus Hunter 2's profile, you'll notice they have yet to post anything that hasn't come true. If you go all the way back to the very beginning of their Twitter account, everything they've ever said was going to happen at Nintendo has happened. Now, I have been talking to Samus Hunter. It's a girl, it's a she, so I'm sorry if I mix up my pronouns. It happens sometimes. Because I'm so used to... I deal with so many men on the internet. Manly men. Like GameOverJesse and his long locks of hair. So we don't have... actually, we've had quite a few female guests on this podcast of late.
Yeah.
We had Holly on. Then we had... Who was it before
Misclick.
that? Misclick on. So, hey.
With GameOverJesse.
With GameOverJesse. I know, right?
Yeah.
Baller. First time GameOverJesse's been on solo in a while, so...
Yeah.
Maybe he'll talk more. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say, because this is a lot of juicy stuff. So Samus Hunter 2. To speak about where this information comes from. Samus Hunter 2 has gotten everything correct. The next thing they have on slate to get right has to do with Nintendo announcing some of their E3 plans. Now, he didn't detail everything, but he did hint that there could be a Smash Bros. Tournament, and there could be a Splatoon 3 tournament that's Nintendo Treehouse. And that we should hear about it or hear some preliminary details tomorrow. So, really soon. Did note, obviously, that it's possible that it's just getting shared internally tomorrow, revealed on Friday, something like that. But whatever, sometime this week, we should be hearing something according to Samus Hunter. So if you hear about a Splatoon 3 tournament for Nintendo Treehouse from Nintendo announced tomorrow or the next day, the only person on the internet that has said that is happening is Samus Hunter 2. So...
And now us.
But we're saying it from Samus Hunter 2.
Right.
So I talked to Samus Hunter 2 behind the scenes about 2 weeks ago. And kind of talked about how they get their information. Now, I can't reveal how they get it, but I can confirm that I have seen the evidence of them having access to legit information. I'll give you one example I'm allowed to share. You guys remember the Monster Hunter Direct? So there were certain video files and certain imagery that was associated directly with that Monster Hunter presentation that we got with Monster Hunter Stories 2 and the 2.0 update for Monster Hunter Rise, which Samus Hunter said we were going to get. I saw internal documents for that. And all of the imagery I was shown appeared in that Monster Hunter presentation. So if you want to think Samus Hunter 2 isn't legit, then I don't know, but somehow they're getting a hold of information like that. I was allowed to share that, so sharing it with you now because that's all public now. It's not a big deal. Other stuff I've seen I can't share. But we have got a bunch of information because today I drilled Samus Hunter. I drilled her for all she's worth. I don't think there's a single thing in her knowledge bank that I now don't know. At least up to today, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Okay? Up to today, there is nothing else that Samus Hunter knows that I don't know. So let's dive into it, because there's a lot. And the first bit deals with the 35th anniversary of Zelda. Now, this is stuff she has talked about before, but it's good to get clarification on what she has heard specifically will be part of the 35th anniversary, because there's been a lot of rumors out there, right? Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, whatever the heck Grezel is doing, the Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, etc. And some of that stuff might be happening. But as an example, Samus Hunter didn't know that we were going to get the new game announcement today that dropped, right? Didn't know about that. So she doesn't know everything, okay? So even though this is what she is very certain is happening for the 35th anniversary, it doesn't mean there won't be more. So if you don't hear what you want, don't get disappointed.
Put down the pitchforks for right
now.
now.
Put down the pitchforks. Don't be running into Nintendo's headquarters and ready to burn them down.
I can say I looked at her Twitter earlier and the stuff that she announced, and there's a couple of things that's not on there.
Ooh. See? See, this is what I'm talking about. Samus Hunter doesn't know everything because they're not privy to everything. But when they do know stuff, I guess I find out now. So I said, the reason I reached out to her is because Andres Restart did a video on a new Donkey Kong game and referenced talking to Samus Hunter and showed part of the conversation where Samus Hunter said, actually, I know more than this, but then he didn't really go deeper into it. So I decided I'll just message her because she's been talking to me anyways. Be like, what do you mean you know more? Here's what she said. Yes, I talked about the majority of the projects that Nintendo has in the works that I know about in my past tweets, but here's a recap. So let's start with Zelda 35th anniversary because we're all Zelda guys here. We love Zelda. Eric,
Hey,
finally beat Breath of the Wild.
I did.
That's right. Eric Moore is now officially someone who beat Breath of the Wild. Not 100%. I don't think he'll ever go get all those Korok seeds.
That's
what was the percentage?
33.17.
Yeah, there it is.
I have all the shrines done. I'm fairly certain I got most, if not all, of the actual quests done. I don't know how to tell.
Are you sure? Because I don't think the Korok seeds make up over 50%.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm pretty sure you're missing quite a few side quests.
Well, all the ones that I found, I have completed.
Well, I'm sure you completed all the ones you ran into, but
yeah,
that's the fun. That's the joy of Breath of the Wild. If you're not using a guide and you don't know where all the quests are, there's quests there's so many side quests in this game, way more than any other Zelda game. That's for sure. All right, let's get into you guys. I know are like at the tip of your toe, like just give us what's the 35th anniversary gonna be. All right, so here is the plans according to Samus Hunter, which again might not include everything, and we'll let GameOverJesse time in on things he might have heard in addition. But this is what Samus Hunter's telling us, and this is the stuff I will plant my flag and stand by. Okay, this stuff's going to happen. Obviously, the sequel to Breath of the Wild is going to release sometime for the 35th anniversary. Okay? Whether it's this year, by March of next year, whenever Nintendo decides they're done, with the 35th anniversary of Zelda, whatever timeline they set up for that. The Mario one went into this year. I'm sure the Zelda one will go into next year. Whatever the timeline is, somewhere in there, Breath of the Wild 2 is going to come out, right? I don't think that's like that. I mean, God, we all think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming sooner rather than later. I think for the most part, especially since, funnily enough, Microsoft apparently thought it was coming last year. So came out during the little court case today that Microsoft literally thought Metroid Prime 4 and Breath of the Wild 2 were coming last year.
Nice.
I don't know why they thought that.
Sure.
You figure they got more industry insiders than we do. But hey, that's someone at Microsoft thought that anyways. There's going to be obviously the DLC that's already been announced for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. There's 2 separate packs. One of them releasing next month, one later this year. And by the way, I think we're getting information on that the first pack this month. Animal Crossing furniture and stuff like that. So Zelda items in Animal Crossing. They did it for Mario. No shocker there. There's going to be other game events.
She had that on there?
What?
She had that on there? The
Animal
Crossing
Crossing furniture, yep. For the Zelda 35th anniversary.
On the last Direct, I was told that there was going to be Zelda Animal Crossing stuff revealed in the thing, but then it ended up being Mario. So I didn't know that anyone else was talking about the Animal Crossing stuff.
Now this is in the future. I'm presuming this is whenever Nintendo blows the lid off. Is it at E3? Is it after E3? Don't know. Whenever they decide to blow the load on 35th anniversary, because guys, Nintendo likes money, and they know Zelda's going to make them money, so they're not just going to not celebrate it. They celebrated the 30th, the 25th, and the 20th. So let's just be real. If you think they're skipping, then you haven't paid attention to Nintendo over the last couple decades. All right. There's going to be game events, other game events, which I take that to mean, if you look at what happened to the 35th anniversary of Mario, maybe some sort of Splatfest related to it. Maybe like a Mario Kart Tour event. They do mention specifically a Smash Bros. So that's like sometimes they do like those little special spirit things in Smash Bros. That are themed. So I expect to be a Zelda one of that. And obviously merchandise, and there will be Amiibo apparently. I don't know if it's new Amiibo, but there's going to be Zelda Amiibo. So I don't know if it's going to be a re-release. Because you guys remember, they did a whole anniversary selection of Amiibo with Zelda before for the 30th. So maybe they're going to reprint those and bring them back. Or maybe there'll be some brand new ones. Especially since, hey, we got Breath of the Wild. Then we got the Champion Amiibo and all that. And some other Amiibo related. But what if they get some Breath of the Wild 2 Amiibo? I'm just saying. Okay, don't be
Jesse's
surprised.
shaking his head.
Don't be surprised. Obviously, there'll be a bunch of merchandise. It is what it is. There's already a bunch of Zelda merchandise. There's just going to be more of it specific to the anniversary. That's all expected. The other thing was so a likely Tetris 99 / Pac-Man 99 kind of game. So Mario 35, the Zelda 35, basically. It seems to be what they're hinting at. They don't say Zelda 35 specifically, but something that's in the vein of all those 99 games, right? So, which we've had 3 of them now. So yeah, that's it. I think for. Wait, no, where it says no, that's a separate update for Animal Crossing. Okay, so that is what Samus Hunter is saying we're getting for the 35th anniversary. So to recap, Skyward Sword HD as well. Sorry, I know I skipped over that. I figured that was a given. It's already announced, right? So, but like, oh no, we're not getting Skyward Sword HD. It's canceled.
Just kidding. Yeah,
so sequel to Breath of the Wild, sometime during the 35th anniversary. Skyward Sword HD, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity DLC, Animal Crossing's furniture that's Zelda related, game events, like the Splatfest and all that of the world. There's going to be merchandising, Amiibo, some sort of Tetris 99, Pac-Man 99, Zelda 35, something in there kind of like that. Yeah, that's basically it. That's what she's privy to. She has noted to me several times she does not have story or other details or release dates for something like Breath of the Wild. Something to note about Samus Hunter, and she's made this very clear to me in the past, there are certain games that she might hear about, like Breath of the Wild 2. But that's it. Hear about. You're not going to get exact details because Nintendo is very secretive, even among their own staff, on who has access to certain details. So, I'm just throwing that out there, that she's aware it's happening during the anniversary because she's seen something about it, but she hasn't seen story details, title, etc., etc., etc. So,
and honestly, that's not surprising.
I had an email from someone, the person that was giving me all the Breath of the Wild 2 stuff, and it really went into detail on the localization process and like the writing and the story and how you won't be getting the entire script to localize. You'll just be getting what you're working on and anything that needs to add context to it. That way, if something does leak out and it's like one specific thing, it's easier to track down where that thing came from. And I have some other friends that have been on my channel. Well, a couple of them been on my channel before, and then some of them haven't. But they basically said the same thing, that Nintendo, with certain games, has started doing that to where it helps keep leaks from going out. Because if someone mentions something about like describing a fire temple, and they're like, oh, well, this person is the only one that has anything about the fire temple, so obviously it's going to be him. And
all the people that just popped in and were like, wait a second, the GameOverJesse just confirmed Fire Temple, Breath of the Wild 2?
No.
Yeah, right.
No, he's just explaining how localization works, assuming this person is who they say they are, which I remember I actually covered it after you did because you're the source on this. So I covered it. You guys have probably seen the video. If you haven't, it's essentially someone that potentially works in the localization team and has their name is in the credits of Breath of the Wild. That was kind of like the big thing that maybe gave it some credence. But again, not like we can exactly verify, hey, some of your driver's license and some of your badge for Nintendo. Or like, I mean, come on. People aren't that dumb. So,
all of the thing
not
that gave
people
it
who are
that-
actually in
not
the
these
industry
people.
aren't that.
Yeah,
as
not these
someone who
people.
knows
Yeah,
actual
right.
game developers,
Right.
they're not that dumb.
No, I know.
Yeah, the what gave it credibility to Daniel and I, and RMFH was he looked over the email with us too, because we were trying to find things that didn't really go together. And it was interesting that like most people that'll send in stuff would be like, hey, my blah 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 works at Nintendo and this is what's going on. Instead of doing any of that, like he didn't give any story stuff, he didn't go in depth on the game like most people do when they're trying to get their name or whatever out there, where like their 15 seconds of fame on their favorite YouTube channel. This person just went into tons and tons of detail of the actual work process, and we showed it to I showed it to some of the writers, and they confirmed like everything that he said is actually how it works. So
it's not so. So basically, it doesn't sound like someone that's just making up how the process works to sound legit.
And the thing is, if it was made up and completely just from this person's mind, the information that he gave on the writing process was still correct.
Yeah,
so even if he did make it up,
that's
like,
absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
like maybe the person doesn't actually work at Nintendo, but they clearly have worked in localization at least somewhere.
Or know somebody that does.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But again, that's the big thing with these sources. Even Samus Hunter 2, as much as I believe a bunch of the stuff that she puts out there, it's just notable that hey, we're not there in person typically. Every now and then you'll meet a source. That does happen sometimes, but I mean during COVID we're not really meeting anyone. So, all right. So is there anything else that you've heard? And well, I know there's more you've heard, Jesse. That could potentially be happening for the 35th anniversary beyond what Samus Hunter is saying will happen.
So
there's a lot. I know.
I posted the videos and you covered them as well. They actually did really well for your channel about the whole Grezzo thing, working on multiple Zelda games, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then starting on whatever Unity game they're working on. And a lot of people are like, Grezzo's a small team. They would never work on 2-3 different games at once, especially all of them being Zelda. But if you look at the 25th anniversary and the 30th anniversary, that's what they did. They released like 2 different Zelda games to celebrate those anniversaries, and then immediately began working on one, where one of the times they ended up working on 2 Zelda games right after finishing 2 Zelda games. And the only thing they've released since Link's Awakening was that 3DS port, which, let's be honest, would only take like a month for a small team to do. And what have they been doing with their 2 or 3 other teams for the past 2 years?
Well, Miitomo.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like...
Or Miitopia. Miitopia, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned would, like, it would take a small team like a month to port that game over.
Well, see,
because it's not a big game at all.
But you say that. Did you see all the new features they added for being able to customize your Mii that was not in the original game? They rebuilt the entire Mii customizer. It's crazy. It's like a true avatar customization thing now.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, even if they did spend a lot of time on that, that's just one of the 3 or 4 different teams that they have. And we know they have that many because there's been
based on the release schedule.
You can look, and within a year's time, they've released 3 or 4 different games, which had to be in development around the same time. But anyways, getting off of Grezzo, the person who had mentioned that to me, I believe is the same person who, there was a tweet that I put out the day before the Nintendo Direct that said something like, wouldn't it be cool if in tomorrow's Nintendo Direct we got Skyward Sword HD, Age of Calamity DLC, Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, and Zelda hardware. And all 4 of those things kind of happened. We didn't get the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, but we got a promise for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, right. There was a mention. There was a mention.
But we got Skyward Sword HD. We got we didn't get a trailer for the Age of Calams DLC, but we did get.
It was kind.
We got details for it.
Yeah, I mean there was motion.
And the Zelda hardware that I thought was going to be like a Breath of the Wild 2 dock or something, because they just said Zelda hardware, that ended up being the Skyward Sword Joy-Cons.
Oh yeah.
So basically, like 3.5 out of the 4 things that I was told was going to happen happened, and the 5th thing that I was told was going to happen was the Zelda Animal Crossing stuff, which I did not believe at all. And then the Mario Amiibo stuff came on, and I was like, oh, maybe they are going to show it. Maybe I should have added that in the tweet, but I just didn't believe it because I thought it was kind of dumb. But
you thought, why would you think it's dumb? They do themed items in Animal Crossing all the time.
Yeah, I know they put like Majora's Mask and stuff in the 3DS one, I think. But I just didn't think that they were going to be like putting that much stuff Zelda related in a direct. They did it for Mario. It wasn't.
Oh, in that specific direct. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I didn't think it was going to be like 5 or 6 different Zelda things in a direct that wasn't a 35th anniversary.
But it was
direct.
kind of 4 things.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they did load it up with a lot of stuff, and so like with all of that stuff that they mentioned being basically true, that's why
makes you wonder.
when I looked into the Grezzo stuff, I was like, okay, well that has to be true as well. And then the person with the email, the recent one that we were talking about a moment ago, said something about Ocarina of Time. When you see the logo on like papers or something in the place, it's not Ocarina of Time HD or Ocarina of Time 3D HD, like what they did with Super Mario 64 DS, where they like gave it two titles.
Yeah.
It's just titled Ocarina of Time.
Which is what they did with Link's Awakening, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
They basically
did do
remade
that.
Link's Awakening, and they just call it Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Not DX,
So at the
not remastered, not HD,
Not new.
not remade, not new Link's Awakening.
And so a lot of people were kind of in fear that Ocarina of Time would just be an N64 port like they did with Super Mario 64. But
So,
from everything that's going on, I don't think that's going to happen.
well,
Like,
what I find interesting, if that guy's true, and the Ocarina of Time logo is legit, it also makes me think, if you look at how Nintendo's handled these, remakes, re-releases, or whatever, when they don't really do much, they just call it HD. Like, if it's just taking the game, putting it in HD, like what they're doing with Skyward Sword, they just say,
Twilight Princess.
yeah, Twilight Princess, even the Wind Waker, which they put a little bit more work into because they were practicing for Breath of the Wild.
They used some of the engine assets from the Breath of the Wild engine,
Yeah.
which is where you get like all the new bloom effects and everything in Wind Waker.
But still, they just called it HD because they even realized, hey, we're not adding a significant kind of content here. Actually, technically, they cut more content than they put in. If you think about the whole Tinkle Tune request and all that being removed. But, yeah, I feel like they could have found a clever way to still include it somehow, even without having to have like a cross connection with a 3DS or something. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. They clearly just decided to go with the message bottles and call it good, which at the time, with Miiverse and everything, it kind of sort of made sense. So like they do this HD thing, but then we saw, then they released Link's Awakening, and that was like a full-on remake. They remade that game. They just call it Link's Awakening. They bring out Xenoblade Chronicles. It's not technically a remake. They call it Definitive Edition. It's a remaster. Okay, so they're starting to use Definitive Edition when it's like a remaster. They're starting, or like either a remaster or a combining of all content together, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what Definitive Edition seems to mean to them. HD means mostly, hey, we did the bare minimum work and brought it to you in HD. But then when they just reuse the name itself and release it on a Switch cart, right now, we have one example, but that one example is they remade the game. So if this logo is true and it's just called Ocarina of Time, that's a remake.
Yeah, and some people think that Nintendo would be too lazy to do that, and I think the laziest version of this we get is just basically what you would get if you emulated it in HD on your computer and then just made the textures a little bit prettier. That is like the bare minimum that I would expect. But if it is fully remade, I think there's a big possibility for that because, and this is the same reason that I mentioned that I didn't think the Oracle games were being remade, like that one rumor was suggesting. Because to make it quick, Ocarina of Time HD, if they did the bare minimum, just ported the 3DS version, sloppy port, whatever, in HD, that would still sell more copies based off of its name, Ocarina of Time HD, in its pre-order phase than Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons would sell if they were bundled together and discounted to $40 and in its lifetime. Like, I think that would get about 4 to 5 million in its total lifetime, and Age of Calamity in pre-orders got 3 million or a little bit more. So if Ocarina of Time HD was available for pre-order, I think it would be easily 5 or 6 million in its pre-order. If a spin-off like Age of Calamity got 3 million, I think Ocarina of Time could easily get more pre-orders than that. And Oracle of Ages and Seasons, 2 games bundled together, discounted, $20 off, selling at $40 through its entire lifetime. I still don't think it would sell as much as Ocarina of Time would at $60 by itself. And it would only take maybe 3 to 6 months to port it to Switch if it is just a port.
Yeah, depending on what they're doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
If it's a full-on
really used to
remake, then
porting 3DS games to
that takes years. But
yeah. Whereas the Oracle games would take them like at least 2 years to make both of them because they'd have to remake it all building from the ground up. Where Ocarina of Time would just be a quick port. So they would spend 3 months and make however much money 5 or 6 million pre-orders would sell, or they could spend 2 years working on 2 games and maybe sell 1 million pre-orders and then 3 or 4 million through its lifetime sales.
It always depends.
just
I think
$40.
some people that think the Oracle games could be one, because there's people who really love the Oracle games and they haven't really gotten any love since they first came out. And two, I think it's because people looked at Link's Awakening and they go, well, hey, if they just decide to reuse that engine, what games make sense to reuse the engine for Link's Awakening? And that's why they look at, the Oracle games obviously make sense to potentially reuse that engine, which would then speed up the development process and possibly make it not take as long to develop. That being said,
they're not reusing that engine.
That being said, we just got Link's Awakening, and I know we're getting Skyward Sword HD, right? But I feel like for the Anniversary of Zelda, and this isn't I'm not trying to knock people who want top-down Zelda, okay? Yeah. I hope we get a new top-down Zelda someday. I hope that Triforce Heroes wasn't the last new one we're getting. I hope we're getting more someday. And I think we will. Right now, I think they're just riding that Breath of the Wild wave. Oh, yeah. We're going to get Breath of the Wild 2, and then we'll see what happens after that. Because I think they do tend to use the top-down games as filler content, and that's why I said, after Breath of the Wild 2, maybe the next one will be a top-down. I'm not saying they're not going to immediately work on a third game to follow Breath of the Wild 2. We'll have to see how Breath of the Wild 2 ends, and if it's leaving the door open for a third one.
There is an interview with Aonuma and Miyamoto, both I think, where they're asked if they're working on a 2D Zelda game, and they say yes, they are working on a 2D Zelda game, and that they want it to their quote was, they want it to evolve.
Yeah, I remember that's from a while ago too.
2D Zelda games, yeah, and that was before Link's Awakening, a year or two before Link's Awakening started development, and we never heard anything about 2D Zelda, and it's Link's Awakening wasn't it because it didn't evolve 2D Zelda in any way at all. It was just a normal.
I mean, unless they plan to reuse that engine a bunch of times, then you could be like, well, that's how it evolved. They created a standardized engine to make future ones, like they did with New Super Mario Bros. Right? But until they do it,
that engine again.
Yeah, until they do that and reuse that engine, that theory kind of goes out the window. It's kind of a hey, maybe, but they haven't done it yet, so let's not jump the gun. I agree with you. Ocarina of Time, a remake or even just an HD, even if it's just, I think an HD of the 3DS version would be the way to go if they were to do it. And obviously Grezzo made that version, so they'd be the experts to HD it. And obviously we just saw what they did with Miitopia, so we know that they can obviously HD 3DS games. That's not a problem for them.
Yeah, they got a history of doing that.
But also there's also some prevailing thoughts out there that hey, they didn't. There was technically a quote-unquote better version of Mario 64, and when Mario's Anniversary came around, all they did was just up-res through an emulator, basically, the N64 version. So, don't really know. We hope. Grezzo's got something. It's more, at this point, what do we think it is versus what other people are saying, and I think the door is kind of wide open. I just hope if it is Ocarina of Time, they don't do what happened with Mario Galaxy and then just not give you the second one. Not get Majora's Mask at some point, even if it's released separately. That would be so infuriating to many people that would be like, oh, we finally got what we wanted for Ocarina of Time, and then they're just never going to do Majora's Mask. This is what it feels like with Galaxy 2. It feels like they're just never going to do anything with Galaxy 2 at this point.
Wouldn't it be really awesome if they were both announced at the same time
and packaged together? That's my hope. That's my hope. Package them together. The thing is, they released Skyward Sword HD on their own. I don't see any way that I think if there's a package together, it would be like Twilight Princess and the Wind Waker HD package together. Just because, which by the way, Jeff Grubb put out there that we are getting Twilight Princess and the Wind Waker HD during the 35th anniversary, which isn't part of Samus Hunter's thing. But guys, what Wii U games don't we get? Xenoblade Chronicles X, I think that's one of the last ones left to get. So clearly, we're going to get these games at some point. I think they're worried about the release timing of those games specifically because I do think if they plan to bundle Twilight Princess and the Wind Waker HD together, which the only reason I feel like they might bundle is because they already re-released them in HD and got individual sales. So I feel like those are great candidates to bundle together, like the 3D All-Stars game. So if those are bundled together, then from what I've heard from other sources, and this is where we're getting away from the people that I know to likely be right, is that their release timing for these will depend on Breath of the Wild 2. If Breath of the Wild 2 comes this year, these games will be the capper next year. If Breath of the Wild 2 is pushed to spring, then these games will come out this year around holiday time. Despite the fact we also got Skyward Sword HD, doesn't matter because Nintendo knows those games packaged together are probably going to sell 5, 8, maybe 10 million because they're really, really popular Zelda games.
Well, not to mention Skyward Sword's had some time to, get its sales.
Oh yeah, Skyward Sword probably a full month in the market, I think, before anything else would touch it. So.
I can tell you that Skyward Sword HD is 100% holding back some really cool stuff.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
They don't want it to overshadow. And even people in the comments in my videos have even said this, that if another like Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess was announced, they would pull their pre-order from Skyward Sword to pre-order the other game. So,
and here's the thing, guys, we might not get...
Skyward Sword.
So another thing to talk about with the 35th anniversary is we might not get a blowout for it all at once. We might get them mentioning the 35th anniversary for like the first time at E3, and then maybe hey, we're going to have updates, on this 35th anniversary for months to come. And then they're going to trickle it out through Nintendo Directs and other things. Specifically because you might be like, well, why do they care about overshadowing Skyward Sword? Like, even if Ocarina of Time gets announced and that overshadows it, still probably at least 5 million people are going to buy Skyward Sword HD, which is more than it sold originally, so who cares? Well, it's not so much I think that Nintendo's worried about the sales. I think anything's going to sell that's Zelda, and they push right now anyways, because Zelda's more popular than it's ever been. But I think there's a couple things with Skyward Sword HD. This is more the theory territory where, one, we factually know it's a very important game to Eiji Aono and Shigeru Miyamoto. GameOverJesse and I don't know how many of you guys know, this was one of like the last games that Miyamoto had any like actual, like he came back to the franchise to help make this game happen, and he hasn't really been with the franchise since. And before that, he was kind of, I know he's technically listed in the credits as like the general overseer of the IP, but he really wasn't involved, right? He would just give like his final stamp, oh, yep, you're good. And then Eiji Aono was allowed to do what he wanted. But with this game, Miyamoto got directly back involved, so it's personally important to Miyamoto. If you guys remember, this is actually the last Zelda game that Miyamoto himself was showing off on stage at E3. Everything since Eiji Aono has been presenting. So this is an important game to him. It's an important game to Eiji Aono. It's an important game to Zelda lore. If you care about that, you care about the timeline, you care about possibly stuff that's happening in Breath of the Wild 2, because if you played Skyward Sword, there was a certain important scene that happened in Breath of the Wild that's directly related to Skyward Sword. But we don't know the significance of it because nothing came of it in the game. But the reference was there, which suggests something's happening in the future involving the Master Sword and stuff from Skyward Sword, potentially. And we'll just leave it at that because at this point it's all speculation. We don't know anything after that. We just know that factually occurred, so probably going to be a connection to the Master Sword. Heard of it? It's kind of a big deal in the Zelda series. I don't know.
It is.
And if you know what's in the Master Sword and you know the background story, she's kind of a big deal too. So let's move on from the 35th anniversary. We got a bunch of stuff to get into here because, guys, I know some of you guys are here because we got the Switch Pro stuff, Virtual Console. What the hell's going on with that? We got some big updates for you guys, but that's going to come a bit later. Let's go down from the 35th anniversary to the next line from Samus Hunter 2, where they said Animal Crossing content updates like Brewster and a new returning villager alongside other features. So basically there's going to be a feature update at some point this year for Animal Crossing, along with some Brewster and other returning villagers, which I think Animal Crossing fans, you got to be happy to hear this, right? Like, there's been a lot of criticism lately that the Animal Crossing updates have been kind of lackluster. Like, they did the swimming update last year, and since then, it's just been, here's a trickle of new items here and there. Otherwise, here's our seasonal updates. They're kind of like phoning it in, And everyone's like, when are we going to get like that next big content-rich, new feature? Maybe bring back features from New Leaf or something. And I guess they don't say we're getting features back from New Leaf, but there's going to be other features and returning villagers at some point this year. So, just throwing that out there. That is according to Samus Hunter. I've not heard this from anybody else besides the Zelda Animal Crossing content. I've heard that from a couple people, but this specific, just Animal Crossing in general, that's exciting stuff. Especially since we're gonna find out, I think tomorrow, or maybe it's even tonight, if Animal Crossing has now overtaken Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as the best-selling game on Switch.
Whoa!
We're getting fiscal year updates, so stay tuned. We'll have a video on that when that information drops. It drops tonight. I'll get it up tonight, but I'm already awake, right? So why not? Next
Who
up,
needs sleep?
who needs sleep? It's either tomorrow. Pretty sure it's tomorrow. I don't know. It's Japanese time, so. Next up, there's 2 Kirby games. So this is where things get interesting. So Hal is working on a bunch of stuff. There's going to be 2 Kirby games that are coming this year, which, by the way, saying a Kirby game's coming this year is like saying water is wet. We get a Kirby game every year. Every year. It's been like 11 straight years we've had a Kirby game.
Nice.
So, like, even like a little tiny one, it doesn't matter. We always get something. So apparently we're getting 2 this year. One of them is going to be like a mainline one, which I think is, I don't know, like I think they consider Kirby Star Allies mainline, so it could be like that. It could be even bigger deal than that. But there's supposed to be a mainline one coming this year. Also a spin-off one, which there's a lot of Kirby spin-offs, so take that for what you will. Also, there's apparently going to be 2 other IPs coming from HAL Laboratories that are going to be just eShop releases, so smaller titles just on the eShop. So, I mean, Nintendo's done a lot of those kind of titles. I mean, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball always comes to mind. But they've done a lot of little titles like that over the years. So having more of those, I mean, you guys got any thoughts on those? Or the Animal Crossing stuff?
I don't play a whole lot of them, so, I mean, the only thing that I can think of right now is that, with getting another Kirby game, all he's doing is stopping in to say, hi!
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think they might have the right formula of the people that are working on the main Kirby team are just so quick at coming up with cool ideas that they can just push out these great Kirby games in no time at all. But with the Animal Crossing stuff, I haven't heard anything about Animal Crossing, but as popular as it is, you would expect Nintendo to give it as much DLC as
eventually,
they can.
some sort of update. Nintendo is not like, especially when you hear what we got later to talk about when it comes to Virtual Console. Nintendo is acutely aware of the criticism of their games. Like, why do you think we got that Mario Party update, guys? Why do you think that happened? It didn't just happen out of the kindness of their hearts. They have heard the criticism everyone had that Super Mario Party was not fully playable online. And now they hear your criticism that you can't play against randoms. Then again, people are having a hard time just playing against their friends because it disconnects. But I'm just saying that Nintendo hears your criticism. Whether or not they do anything about it, that's going to be a game-to-game basis. But I think Super Mario Party is still being played enough. Nintendo has the tracking data, right? Every time your Switch goes online, they know who's playing what. So they know if Super Mario Party is still relevant. So you guys might think, why release it now? Nobody cares. Dude, that gives it like 10 million, 11 million. What do you mean nobody cares?
People back too.
Like, what do you mean nobody cares? I mean, just because you might not be playing, like, dude, it's a very popular Switch game. So, yeah, and it's still selling. By the way, it still pops up in the top 10 charts like every other month.
Did I talk to you in a private message about Nintendo fixing their online service and adding online updates to older games?
Did you talk to me about that?
I did. I didn't mention Mario Party. I didn't think they were going to start doing it this soon, but I mentioned Pokemon, how there's like the 2-second lag, and then Age of Clems getting an update for online multiplayer.
Yep. Which
yeah.
But yeah, we reported on there being, well, we didn't really have to report. I mean, what's his name? Shintaro Furukawa put out there that they were going to update old games at their last investors meeting. So
yeah,
we didn't know what that meant, and then we got this. So it's kind of like, okay, so now what? Are we going to suddenly get Mario Odyssey DLC out of nowhere? 4 years later.
It's not just like they didn't update a game that was just 3 or 6 months old. Like Mario Party's 2 years old at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like they're really updating old games, not just.
Khaled Mackey in the chat corrected me. I guess Super Mario Party has sold 15 million now. I'll have to bring up their sales chart. Like, dude, that game is selling like crazy, guys. Let me think about that. 15 million is before Breath of the Wild came out. That would be double the best-selling Zelda game of all time. That's like, you guys don't understand. Super Mario Party is massively popular. My kids love that game. It's a family party game. So yeah, it might not be you Breath of the Wild Metroid gamers. It might not be your cup of tea. I'm telling you. I mean, just wait. You guys just wait till Mario Golf Super Rush becomes the best-selling Mario Golf game ever. It's gonna happen. It's going to happen. I can just tell you now, it's going to happen.
I have Mario Golf, the original, in my closet right now.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, this is a video I actually did yesterday, but there's a little bit more. So Samus Hunter is saying that they know about plans for Donkey Kong for upcoming years. With the main game, and this is what we talked about yesterday on a video, coming from EPD Tokyo, which notably is part of the team that worked on Super Mario Odyssey. So, are we not getting an Odyssey 2, but are we getting like a serious attempt at an inbuilt Donkey Kong game? There's been stuff around that. Is it a 3D game? Is it a 2.5D game? Basically the idea that Samus Hunter threw out there is that they are trying to make Donkey Kong as relevant as it was back in the SNES days. Well, back then, the first Donkey Kong Country sold like 9 million. That was coming right off of the arcade game, the original DK, that was like between all the different arcade cabinets and the NES and everything, like sold like 60 million copies. So like they're obviously not going to get back to 60 million. That's pretty insane. Like I don't even think, I don't know, maybe Mario Kart 9 would hit 60 million. Who the hell knows at this point? But I think it's one of those things where I think they feel like DK can be a consistent 10 million seller. And this isn't them knocking what Retro Studios did. Donkey Kong Country Returns sold 6 million. But then Tropical Freeze came out, didn't do that well on Wii U, didn't really do that well compared to other games on Switch either. So I think they look at it as, we haven't made an internal Donkey Kong game in forever. So what happens if we take the reins, we put our Mario team on it, maybe even reuse the Odyssey engine, and just blow people's minds? Because remember, the next expansion for Super Nintendo World is supposed to be a DK area. So you see that, it's the 40th anniversary. And you might say, well, who cares? DK doesn't sell that well anymore. Why would Nintendo care? Because DK is like a representative for Nintendo of one of the major reasons they are where they are today as a video game company. Yes, they factually had video games before Donkey Kong, but Donkey Kong was the arcade game, the game that blew up Nintendo in the video game world before they even...
It saved the video game industry.
Yeah. Like it's the game, like, so it's high, and Nintendo is still a traditional Japanese company. And if you can't tell by what's happened in the past with Iwata cutting his salary, they're a very honorable company. And so to them, DK is important, even if DK doesn't sell well lately. They feel like maybe DK is not selling that well lately because we haven't taken care of business. We've been outsourcing it.
Right.
Let's stop outsourcing it, even to a studio we own. And let's see if we, maybe when we did that whole DK64 back in the day, maybe that was the wrong approach. Maybe we could do it better today. So
we need to give it the Breath of the Wild, the Mario Odyssey treatment.
Yeah.
And revolutionize the series.
Yeah. So that's exciting for me growing up with DK. I mean, I love DK.
DK is one of my favorite characters of Nintendo.
Yeah. Like and you think about it, even if they go with a 3D platformer, Nintendo doesn't actually have a ton of 3D platformers. They have a lot of side-scrolling platformers. They don't have a lot of 3D ones. And since Mario sort of came off of DK, originated from DK as Jumpman, it kind of makes sense. Like if you could have those two franchises be 3D platformers and be like top tier, like why does Mario have to be the only one? Why can't they have another one that's just as good? Different characters, different enemies, different abilities.
It'd be interesting to see like a Donkey Kong in the vein of like an open world type Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
See how that would work.
It'd be great in a big lush jungle, swinging from vines, flying all over the map and the barrels, get on the mine carts. Come on. There's so much cool stuff you could do in a 3D space.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It'd be like how Ukulele kind of evolved the 64 platformer style. But instead of like a smaller studio doing it, it's Nintendo who's genius at coming up with new, unique ideas and expanding on older styles. So I think it would be really cool, especially if they, like in Super Mario Odyssey, they had it to where you could turn into like a painting on the wall, basically like what A Link Between Worlds does. And then there was the 2D segments where you could jump on the wall. If Donkey Kong did something similar, like not turning into a painting on the wall, but went to an area where the camera just turned to make it look like a 2.5D game for some of the levels. That way, the people who did like the classic Donkey Kong countries could still get enough of the gameplay that they love to continue playing on in the 3D parts that they may not like as much. But then there's still the new 3D parts for everyone to play that does want the new experience. So it'd be a way to like
absolutely
make both sides happy.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's something that they've literally already done with Mario Odyssey. Mm-hmm. So it's not like someone could say like they would never do that.
And I think
they already did
if done right, it can actually be popular again.
Yeah.
They got to do it right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Moving on, because there's so much to get through here. We got next up, Samus Returns 2 brings up a Fire Emblem remake project. Now, I've talked about this before, but I have more. There's more details than I had before. The remake is supposedly for a Fire Emblem title that never released outside Japan. So that really narrows down what it could be. Samus Returns notes that it's probably the genealogy of the Holy War game that never released outside Japan. That's what Samus Returns thinks it is. So that's really exciting. For Fire Emblem fans that don't know the whole lore and history of the franchise, you want these old games from Japan coming back fresh, because it's going to feel like a brand new game to you because you haven't played it before, unless you had owned a Famicom and could read Japanese text, because obviously these are text heavy games. You guys know what Fire Emblem's like, so that's kind of cool. Any love for Fire Emblem here?
I like it. It's all right. It was popular enough for Nintendo to go ahead and not just do a Fire Emblem game for Switch, but do multiple Fire Emblem games for Switch and the 3DS. Like there was the one 3DS game where there was 3 different versions that released at the same time, which was insane. And then they even had the spin-off for
Warriors.
Dynasty or not Dynasty. Yeah, the Dynasty Warriors.
Fire Emblem Warriors.
Fire Emblem Warriors. So like the game was popular enough to where they thought a spin-off would sell enough to be profitable. So and they're really quick at bringing out new Fire Emblem games, or the remakes that they have done. So I could definitely see them taking one that hasn't
released. Three Houses sold really well too.
Bring it back. Yeah.
So that's notable too.
Yeah.
A quick turnaround on a remake. That's what they did on 3DS.
Yeah, that's what they've always been doing.
Well, not always. They weren't doing this until always, Awakening blew up. When Awakening, because Awakening was going to be the last Fire Emblem game, unless it sold really well, and then it sold more than any Fire Emblem game ever. So then they said, "Oh, so people do like it. We just had to tell them to like it."
And they even put a spot in the Smash Bros. DLC characters for.
Well, I mean, let's not go there. All right. I mean, that's just we're gonna have some fights in the chat about Fire Emblem characters.
Oh boy.
All right.
All right. So
apologies.
This next piece is on. This is something that's been said by many people. But Samus Returns 2 does say that we are supposed to get a 2D Metroid game this year. That is a very common rumor that's been out there, said by many sources. So there's actually quite a bit of weight around the idea that we could get a 2D Metroid this year.
The smoke is building.
Yeah, it is the 35th anniversary for Metroid as well this year. So think about it. We got 4 major anniversaries. We have the Pokemon 25th. Mm-hmm. We have Zelda's 35th, which, by the way, I'm just going to be honest here. Why do we give a shit about the 35th anniversary? The only thing that's cool for me is I turned 35 this year, so it's like, hey, 35th anniversary, I turned 35. But honestly, why? Okay, I guess I get the 20th. It's 2 decades. I guess I get the 25th. It's a quarter century. I guess I get the 30th because everyone makes a big deal out of turning 30. Who makes a big deal out of turning 35? But they did it with Mario. They did it with Zelda. You know why they do it, guys? It's an excuse to sell shit.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's all about making money. That's what. But it just feels weird to me. Like Nintendo's the only company I know that every 5 years they got to celebrate.
Are you complaining?
Well, what I'm saying is, okay, every 5 years we got.
Sounds like you're complaining.
No, think about it though. Every 5 years we got to celebrate. It takes about 5 years to make a mainline Zelda game.
Duh.
So it's like every time we release a mainline Zelda game, we got to blow up and sell you a bunch of. Nintendo, stop milking me. You're gonna keep milking me till I die.
And you're just gonna keep opening your wallet.
I'm gonna keep spending it.
Here, take my money.
Tune in to E3. We're giving away Skyward Sword Joy-Con and other Zelda goodies. So like, I'm just saying, they're milking me to give to you too. So anyways, 2D Metroid. I think this is. I feel like Metroid Prime 4 is not coming this year. Maybe we'll actually finally see a trailer for it at some point this year, potentially. I just don't. It doesn't give me the vibe that, because of when they restarted development, that we're really, and then you have COVID on top, that we're really going to see it released this year. Even though Microsoft swore it was going to release last year, apparently. You never know. I could be wrong. I would love to get Metroid Prime 4 this year. Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4 in the same year would just be great. But I think that's why you see this 2D Metroid where they're like, hey, we know this isn't going to get done, so we have a different team working on 2D Metroid that we're going to get out and get that out for the 35th anniversary. Maybe also Prime Trilogy. Samus Hunter isn't saying that, but a lot of like industry insiders and like actual journalists have been saying that Metroid Prime Trilogy HD has been done for years, but they keep pushing it back because they want to time it with Metroid Prime 4. They want to show Metroid Prime 4 and then also be like, but hey, while you wait, here's the Trilogy HD. And since they're not ready to show Metroid Prime 4, they're not showing that. That's the prevailing theory from journalists. I don't, what have you heard? Let's go.
I was just gonna say it would be really cool if Tantalus had been remaking the Metroid Prime trilogy and it gets shown off at E3 this year with a trailer for Metroid Prime 4, as you were saying, because the localization guy, as he's now known, after the Zelda stuff, mentioned he mentioned that, I guess this week, because he sent it Monday and said that he found out that day that Metroid Prime 4 was about to enter the translation localization stage. And I was talking to some other people about it, Delth, who we mentioned before this, and some other people. And we kind of came up to the idea that if it's not coming out this year, then what they could be doing is not translating and localizing the full game, but taking what the industry people call a vertical slice, which is like, if the entire game's in alpha or beta, they'll just take like one level and make it look as great as they can, and like carefully plot out the track that the person goes through when they're making the trailer. And then like if you get off that path, you'll just fall through the floor because the game is not made. They're just making that one segment look as good as they can. And if that's what they're doing to record a demo or show off a gameplay or something, like when people are standing on stage and they're just like playing the game, whatever they decide to do, it could just be a small segment being localized and translated for the demo. That way the HUD and the map and everything is in English, and if any text comes on screen, then it'll be in English to go along with the trailer.
They're not going to show it off without it being in local languages.
So that's what we think it could be. If it's not the full game coming out this year, then they're just localizing it for
localizing it enough to do a demo, basically, or a trailer.
And
Yep. And that makes sense, guys. They do that all the time. There's a lot of times you get trailers, game's still far out, but it's in English, but that doesn't mean the entire text of the game is actually in English yet or something like that. It just means what they were willing to show you, they localized it. And even then, it's not final, could have changes, stuff like that. It's just, we'll see. Well, we're all hoping we see Metroid Prime 4 this year.
Oh, yeah.
Bare minimum.
And I don't play Metroid.
Yeah, you're missing out.
I'm not.
You like Halo?
Huh?
This isn't Halo though.
Yeah,
Metroid and Halo are like not even close, just because they're both sci-fi. So Metroid 2D obviously coming this year. Supposedly, according to multiple sources, including Samus Hunter. I think that's fine. I think Nintendo, in the back of their minds, maybe regrets putting Samus Returns as a late release on 3DS after Switch came out. I know why they did it, because they weren't sure Switch was going to be successful, so they still wanted to give quality games to 3DS at the time. But if they had known...
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Go on.
No, you stopped for a second, so I didn't know if you were going to keep going. But the team that they had make Samus Returns, they had been previously working on a different Metroid game that had gotten canceled, so they could start working on Samus Returns, which is odd and probably had a lot to do with that fan remake that was being made.
Probably.
So yeah, and with the 2D thing, I haven't heard anything about Metroid 2D. So
yeah, that's.
But it was just I just wanted to mention
Sure.
the game that ended up getting canceled. They could have went back to whatever that was to try to make a 2D game for Switch, or who knows.
Mm-hmm. So the next thing is stuff that's already been announced. That Samus Hunter knew ahead of time. Splatoon 3 and all the various Pokemon games. All that stuff's already been announced. So we don't need to go back down that path.
Awesome.
We will, once it's more relevant down in the future, of course, once we get more Splatoon 3 information, once we get more Pokemon information. Obviously, one big Pokemon thing to mention, hey, new Pokemon Snaps out. Anyone else play it besides me?
No.
I mean,
I have yet to get it, but I'm going to get it as soon as possible because I think my daughter would absolutely love it.
Probably.
She loves taking pictures with my phone, and she loves Pokemon.
my daughter loves it.
Awesome.
I love
But-
Pokemon Snap, and new Pokemon Snaps are really damn good. That's all I'm going to say, guys. We'll maybe go into more impressions in a separate video. I did live stream it a little bit for you guys. It's not exactly like a kind of game that's good for live streams, but I will probably have an impression video coming out on that before E3 just because, guys, it's been like, 20 years? I don't do impression videos a lot, but for a game I'm waiting 20 years for, I'll give you an impression video, all right? All right. Next up, this is stuff that's happening at Monolithsoft. You guys know them. Xenoblade Chronicles also have a huge team that helps with Zelda games, etc. They have always a lot going on now. Their team's just been growing and growing and growing. They have teams at different buildings and multiple studios under them now. Monolithsoft is basically Nintendo's second biggest development studio at this point, just in terms of sheer employees. It's just, wow. And they do a great job, as you see, with their games doing really well. And Monolithsoft is constantly helping with Nintendo, whether it's Splatoon or Zelda or Mario. They're always helping. So it's like Nintendo's go-to studio. Hey, we need help. Just here's the Monolithsoft guys. Nintendo owns them, so they tell you what to do. That being said, here's some details on what's happening at Monolithsoft according to Samus Returns 2. First off, it says a new game is being developed by Monolithsoft that's likely a new IP, which we've known kind of sort of about that for a while. That's been speculations and rumors about this for a while. Hiring posts kind of referencing a potential new IP. So that's not necessarily new, but what is new is that supposedly this new IP, Monolithsoft is collaborating with another developer on this IP. Don't know who. Nintendo does collaborate. New Pokemon Snap, Bandai Namco, Koei Tecmo for the Warrior games. So partnering with other studios, especially in Japan, is pretty common for Nintendo. So,
and you just mentioned all the different games that just from Nintendo that Monolithsoft partnered with to help out on. So they're used to sharing assets and stuff with a separate team as well.
Yeah, they're clearly very good at with partnering. So partnering on a new IP, that's always exciting. Don't know if it's JRPG. Is it going to be a new action adventure game? Is Nintendo finally going to have a second one that they could do something with? Besides Zelda, I think that would be sick. This is just me hoping, because Monolithsoft obviously clearly has a lot of experience with Zelda now. Be cool to see them do their own take. But we'll see. Now, more than that, this game is supposedly coming out this year or early 2022. I get a little nervous about these early 2022 things because every report and rumor I see, it's like, well, if it doesn't come this year, it's early 2022. And it's like, okay.
How many things?
So, how many things are coming early 2022? Okay, yeah. Technically, Splatoon 3 was not stated to be coming early 2022. Maybe that's not till summer. But, we presume Breath of the Wild will come out at least by early 2022. Pokemon Legends Arceus was stated publicly to be early 2022. So, it's like, man, it's like the first half of next year potentially going to be the greatest half in, Zelda history. In Nintendo history.
Possible.
Might be in Zelda history, too. Depends on how good Breath of the Wild 2 is and if that comes out then.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's just like a side note. It's kind of interesting that it's basically, if it doesn't make it this year, it's early 2022. It's like,
I think that's just an easy, lazy comment to make. It's easy to draw. I mean,
I don't even think it's like. I think it's more so. Hey, look, here's like 10 titles that are coming between now and end of March 2022. Somewhere in there, they're all coming out. So to be safe, we'll say they might be 2022 for all of them, but half of them are coming this year, I'm sure. So
yeah,
I think it's a lot of them would be coming. If they're not coming this year, it's early 2022 and not late 2022 because Switch Pro or Switch 2 will be having games coming late 2022.
All right,
Yeah.
interesting.
yeah.
Monolithsoft is also working on a new Xenoblade game. Don't think that's shocking. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was the best-selling one, and then the Definitive Edition came out for Xenoblade Chronicles, and then that sold really well. I'm sure eventually, maybe, there's a little bit of controversy on why X hasn't been ported yet, but I'm assuming they're eventually going to port that over as well. Might not be Monolithsoft themselves porting it over, but a new Xenoblade game's going to work. The franchise is growing, so they're not just going to stop growing. It's like the only JRPG Nintendo really has. It's theirs. They fully own that. All right, and the next thing from Samus Hunter was that there's going to be a new title from the team behind Mario Kart 8 and ARMS. So those who don't know, the same team that made Mario Kart 8 made ARMS. I was curious what this title was, so I asked for some clarification on like, is this like going to be like a Mario Kart 9? Are we getting an ARMS 2? Or is this like a whole new IP from that team? Because maybe they thought ARMS wasn't it, didn't sell well enough. Maybe they think Mario Kart 8 is just going to ride that for the next few years. So maybe they're making another new IP. Hey, that's how we got Splatoon, right? So what could it be working on? And all Samus Hunter said is, I don't think that it's a sequel to the Mario Kart series. However, she does note that the Mario Kart series is one of those series that Nintendo is very protective of. Not surprising. Very important seller for them, that they're going to be very coy and not. So it could potentially be a Mario Kart 9. A lot of people hoping for Mario Kart 9. Samus Hunter is not saying that they're not making it. She just doesn't get the feeling that they are. But it's also something that she admits she wouldn't be privy to if they were doing it. So, she just knows there's something being made by them. And what's interesting is I pressed further because I'm like, okay, you don't think it's that, so it's ARMS 2 then, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, for you guys might not think ARMS matters. ARMS sold 2 million plus copies. If you look at the average sales of fighting games, that's really damn good. Fighting games aren't like Smash Bros is in a league of its own, right? 20 plus million, never happened before. But if you look at Street Fighter 5, you go look at SNK. You go look at all of the fighting games out there, Mortal Kombat. None of them sell like 10 million. It doesn't happen. Most of them are lucky to break 1 million in sales. So technically, ARMS selling 2 million as a new fighting game IP is actually pretty good.
And it was when the Switch was kind of
a
new.
very low install base.
Mm-hmm.
But comparatively, other games released that year that are before and after ARMS have sold a lot better. So maybe ARMS just isn't. Then maybe don't consider ARMS popular enough. Now, there's been rumors on ARMS 2 for a while, but it's one of those. Well, maybe just maybe ARMS isn't big enough because everything else they release, good or bad, blows up. But ARMS kind of just did okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you made things on this.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, one, I know there people, at least on the marketing team of Nintendo, absolutely love ARMS.
Oh, I mean, it's
And-
They also, ARMS is. Do
colorful
you guys see
and
some of the
fun.
funny videos they were making in the background? They were fighting each other with the fake spring arms, and then they also had one where they were running around with those Splatoon things on their heads.
Oh, is that Nintendo's?
Yeah, that was
team?
Nintendo PR.
I
team.
haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, this was years ago. But
I
it
just
was
know
hilarious.
from
It was like Treehouse
talking-
doing it or something. That was funny.
Okay. And the second thing is, with that rumor of working on a new IP, wasn't there a news report or something that went out that said Nintendo was going to start focusing heavily on new IP? that came out just like a few days ago.
The same report that said that they're going to be updating their old games. At that same time, he said, hey, we're also going to be focusing on new IPs so we can expand our stable of content, not just be reliant on the tentpoles, which makes sense because Nintendo is reliant on the tentpoles. And if you actually look at it, they do have quite a variety of content on Switch, but still, how many of it has Zelda in its name or Pokemon in its name or Mario in its name? Xenoblade, okay. Splatoon, okay. Animal Crossing, yeah. But, like, Nintendo wants, like, 20 stable IPs because if they have that, you won't get game droughts anymore.
Right.
Because then they have franchises people care. Basically, Nintendo wants to keep finding that next Splatoon. That next new IP that can get big.
Miyamoto's official job at Nintendo is literally to just come up with new ideas and innovations for new games or new types of games or new mechanics for games that are currently being worked on. Like, that's just his job. I think his official title is like, what was it?
Mastermind?
No.
No, they've changed it a few times.
It was like senior creative
director or
something.
I don't know. Yeah, fellow. I don't know. They've changed it.
Yeah. I think it has like creative fellow in it, and it's like he's not in charge of any series. He's not like it's just like it feels like a made up job where they're just like come up with good ideas, and that's all. I've
had a theory for a while that at this point, because Miyamoto's old, guys. Yeah. Most people are retired at his age, especially someone who's had the career he's had. But clearly he loves gaming.
Nintendo had an insanely huge insurance policy on Miyamoto.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, and this has been my theory about Miyamoto for a long time, is that Shigeru Miyamoto, because they have a huge insurance policy on him because he's such a legend in the industry, right? Like he's the legend of legends, okay? At least for Nintendo. I'm not saying there aren't other creators out there that are equally, as important. But at the same point, how many of them have theme parks built after their IPs and have their IPs as the mascot for the whole company?
A lot of those other huge popular directors that are like popular on social media or whatever, when they're being interviewed about who they look up to or are influenced by in the industry, all of those people that make like Metal Gear Solid or these other games that people love, and they basically put these developers on a pedestal because they make games that are so great. As great as they are, when they're asked who they look up to, it's always Miyamoto.
Because Miyamoto, guys, is one of the pioneers of legendary IPs. Not the pioneer. Maker of Pong would be the pioneer. But he's there. Like he's at that level and beyond because he's done so much more than just a single IP. Yeah, like, and the thing is, my theory has always been the reason that there's such a huge insurance policy out on him and Nintendo values him so much, obvious reasons that Nintendo values him. You guys think we value Miyamoto as fans? Imagine what Nintendo thinks of Miyamoto, okay? Whatever Miyamoto wants to do at Nintendo, he's pretty much going to get to do. I mean, there's even like stuff out there that the entire Wii U generation was literally because that's what Shigeru Miyamoto wanted.
Yeah, basically.
And like it didn't work, but it's like that exists. That system is the way it is because that's what Miyamoto wanted, and hence why over time, and Nintendo's like, hey, you asked for this. Can you like make some games that maybe prove the concept that you asked for? Because our developers aren't doing anything with it.
He had that weird robot game that he showed off at E3. He had that one mini game that turned into the Star Fox Zero expansion disc or whatever it was.
The camera game and all that.
Yeah. So the weird,
No, what I was gonna say is that I feel like nowadays, and yes, I realize like supposedly Miyamoto worked on Pikmin 4 at some point. That's done and somewhere in the doldrums of Nintendo. It might never release at this point.
That comes from Miyamoto himself.
Yes, I know. Miyamoto's the one who said it, guys. So, like, he's kind of the one that's like, yeah, like, I did this, but, like, you'll get it soon. No, you won't. It's soon was a long time ago. But I feel
back
like
when the Switch was still the NX.
Miyamoto at this point is just a figurehead. And that's not to discredit him. He should be retired. But look at him. Every major thing Nintendo has going on, Miyamoto's there. Financial meeting that's happening either tonight or tomorrow night. Miyamoto's there. He has nothing to do with any of the actual ongoings inside Nintendo really anymore beyond marketing. But he's there because the investors want to see him. Because he's that important. Like there'll be investors that they're only going to make one investor meeting in their whole life because they're an outside investor. Like if you own stock in Nintendo, you can attend the investor meetings. But how many people like in the US and other countries are going to travel to Japan just to attend the investor meetings, right? Like, and you got, there's certain rules and certain honors, and like you have to wait your turn. You might not even get a question in, etc. Because the bigger investors are the ones that, get to ask the questions usually. But it's interesting because. So you have that. So he's always at those because the investors want to see Miyamoto because he's a legend, right? Super Mario World opens up at Universal Studios. Miyamoto's there. When it opens up down in Orlando, Miyamoto's going to be there. Whenever a big game that Miyamoto founded, like the next Breath of the Wild game, Eiji Inomo is going to unveil it at some point when they're showing off gameplay. Miyamoto's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Because
like with
he's a marketing person for them now. That's his job. Yeah. I'm not saying that he's out of creative ideas. Maybe there's something. Like if he told Shintaro Furukawa, hey, I got an idea for a game, I want to try something, he's gonna get to do it. Mm-hmm. He's freaking Miyamoto. They're not gonna tell him no. But they might tell him no on consoles now, though. I got a feeling whatever crazy ideas he has for systems, they'll listen, but then they'll go to the developers and be like, what do you guys think? Yeah, no.
Then again, something tells me they're covered for consoles for the next at least couple of years here.
Well, Switch is going to be around for a little bit. I'm hoping they have their next-gen system is the same vein as Switch, that they don't abandon this idea after one generation. But.
Right.
So, yeah, I love Miyamoto. Inspiration for gamers and developers everywhere. Let's get into some more stuff here. Because we ended up at ARMS. So I asked a little more details on is an ARMS 2, and all she would say is I can confirm that Nintendo did try to do something else with the ARM IP. If they are going to develop another game, so basically saying, hey, she doesn't think that a new ARM game is being developed currently, but that at some point they were playing around with something to have some sort of sequel, or maybe it was going to be a DLC or something, right? They were working on something related. But she says that if they were to develop another ARMS game, however, that she expects it would be something different from the game that released on Switch. So maybe like an homage to ARMS that's a different kind of fighting game that maybe could be more popular. I have no idea. That's all speculation at this point. So basically, she just knows that Nintendo tried at one point to do something else, and then that kind of got abandoned. So whatever the team is working on is basically either Mario Kart 9 or a new IP. That's what I get out of that. So you want Mario Kart 9, there's hope. You want a new IP from that team, obviously there's hope.
I know you made the joke of the next game is going to be legs, and then they're just going to keep going through body parts.
Yeah.
I could see all of a sudden...
Heads are next.
Yep. And then they're going to come up to Thumb Wars.
Thumb Wars?
It's this big, giant battle arena, and the two fighters are getting ready to fight each other. All of a sudden, they walk up to each other and just grab hands and Thumb War.
By the way, shout out to Taker610, who caught our thing live and did a $2 little super chat. Here's the funny thing, because he mentions that I would love a new Wave Race and Punch-Out, which is, dude, that'd be great. But here's the problem. This is the conundrum Nintendo's in. They have so many IPs they don't use anymore, right? Mm-hmm. How many times does F-Zero get demanded? How many times are we just trying to get Mother 3 officially ported? You can play ROMs that have been but like an official version, right? Like all these IPs, Snowboard Kids. We were joking about that earlier. Like Snowboard Kids, like they have so many IPs. So everyone's always demanding, we want these old IPs back. We want Kid Icarus. We want this. We want that. And at the same point, people are like, oh, can't we get something new from Nintendo? And it's like, Nintendo's a huge company, but like, how many games do you guys realistically think they can develop at once? Like internally anyways. Not talking about, they can obviously partner with a billion studios, but internally. Because they're always making Pokemon, that they have the Pokemon Company and Game Freak worried about that, and then whoever they want to hire, Bandai Namco, whoever else to do other games, like new Pokemon Snap. So they have a company dedicated to that. They have a team that's dedicated to basically nothing but Mario, now possibly DK, but there's a relation between DK and Mario, so that can make a little sense. They have an entire team that does nothing but nonstop Zelda games. They obviously have Hal, who's spitting out Kirby games every year, so like they have teams all dedicated to specific IPs. And then they have Retro Studios that I guess doesn't know how to make anything but Donkey Kong and Metroid, since they just didn't release a game for like 7 years, and then they got Metroid Prime 4. So there's that. I don't know what the hell's happening in Retro. I'm very curious about whatever projects they had that failed, or maybe they will come out some down the line. I don't know. Some development hell going on at Retro Studios, which makes me a little bit nervous on Metroid Prime. But it's funny when, I get the super chat. Thank you so much for the $2. I appreciate the support. Because, again, what are fans always demanding? Oh, I want this game back. I want that game back. And Nintendo's like, but we want to make new IPs. Those old games, they weren't popular enough. Mm-hmm. We don't want to bring back the unpopular games. We want to establish the next Splatoon. Because Splatoon is now clearly a staple. We're getting 2 games in one generation because it's that popular. Mm-hmm. So... yeah, so it's cool that you guys want all these old games back. So do I. We could always talk about bringing old games back. We're going to have an update on old games later. You guys are going to be excited. I know some of you guys have been waiting all... even Game Over Jesse's like, what the hell's happening with Virtual Console? What is going on? What's happening? What have you heard, Nate? What's going on? And I know Jesse's heard a few things, but don't know if he's heard these things. So this is going to be... ooh, I can't wait. That's going to be one of the final... basically, guys, if you're waiting for the Switch Pro stuff, you're waiting for the VC stuff... That's going to be some of the last topics we talk about here. All right. Moving on down. We are getting into our last topics. Ooh. Are you ready? We're going to be talking about Switch Pro first. You guys know. The system we've been reporting on since 2018. Actually, our first video ever was in 2017. That's like one report that floated out there that Nintendo was working on hardware. Well, I mean, Nintendo's always working on hardware. Always. Shintaro Furukawa said himself they're always working on hardware. Iwata said they're always working on hardware. So, like, when Switch Pro comes out, guess what? They're already working on their next hardware. Yeah. That's just... they're already probably working on the next-gen hardware after Switch Pro right now.
Yeah, probably.
So, like, let's just be real here, okay? But, we get some details here. Now, if you're hoping for specs, I can tell you right now, we're not getting specs from this information, okay? So, sorry. I know everyone wants the specs. What chip is in it? What's this? Sorry. Again, that's information that's pretty tightly controlled. We have some stuff out there, OLED screen, 7 inches, but we don't have exact, like, chip specs, right? From anybody. No one's reporting on it other than it'll have a 4K output when docked. Okay, cool. Like, how? Okay, is it DLSS? Is it... don't know, okay? But here's the details. Samus Hunter said, oh, by the way, I totally forgot to talk about the new console. Unprompted, by the way. I didn't ask. So Samus Hunter wanted me to have this scoop. And I think it's because Samus Hunter feels very appreciative that other people weren't giving Samus Hunter a chance, despite the fact that she had so many things that she had gotten right. And, like, everyone's like, it's just another one of those Twitter people. We can just ignore them. And it's like, yeah, sometimes you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can. But Samus Hunter is getting too much right.
This track record is...
too much right. Too much right to ignore. And now that I know how they're getting it, and I've seen, I get it. So, enjoy it while it lasts, because I presume the information highway to Samus Hunter 2, when their account finally blows up and they have like 15, 20,000 followers, Nintendo's going to clamp down. Mm-hmm. That highway's going to shut. But enjoy it while it lasts.
I was surprised to hear the Zelda Animal Crossing stuff earlier, because it makes me wonder if maybe the same person that talked to me also talked to her. Because that was something no one that I knew.
But I'm just saying, if Samus Hunter we're going to keep talking about it. I'm just saying, the clamps are going to be coming down eventually. Not on Samus Hunter themselves, but where they're getting the information from. Nintendo will start trickling. So what I've been told from somebody else who has had direct access to a Nintendo employee before is what happened and how they got shut down is that what Nintendo eventually does when they're tired of the leaks, because they're not tired of the leaks that Samus Hunter is putting out there yet, because nothing that's major spoilery has come out from Samus Hunter, right? So clearly isn't privy to say somebody who's in the QA team playing Breath of the Wild 2 right now or something, right? Like clearly not getting information from someone like that, which would be very difficult anyways. And if that ever got out, the whole QA team might get fired because Nintendo ain't having that. Yeah. Like, especially if Jesse's guy is legitimately someone who is a translator there. Hey, they ain't messing around. Okay. You're a QA tester. You leak information. You're gone. Done. Anyways, so what's interesting here is that Samus Hunter can confirm that they are releasing a new Switch model. So, I mean, okay, whatever. If you trust Samus Hunter, this is finally a source that I literally know how they're getting their information. So this, to me, is the first source I've been able to verify likely has real information here. Like, okay, yeah, we know about, they're talking to manufacturers for Nikkei or at Bloomberg, but we can't verify who they're talking to. We have no idea. I know who Samus Hunter's talking to. So, this is already a big deal, just to confirm it's real, to me. I've wanted it to be real, now I'm like, okay. All right. This is now all my speculation and all these reports is starting to become like washing over me. So first off, yes, it's real. And no, it's not a new generation. So for people thinking, it's just going to be a next generation Switch. No. It's not. It's a mid-gen refresh. It's a quote-unquote pro model, she says, as the media is calling it. She does not know the name of it yet. They are working on a couple revisions, by the way. This is the new information. All right? So there's going to be a more expensive model. This is the pro model. That is going to have more features, whatever those features are. I tried to pry on some of that, get into some details on that. And better graphics, visuals, FPS, all that jazz. Okay, you're talking Switch Pro. It's going to be more expensive than the current model. So $350, $399. People that thought, hey, maybe they won't budge off the $300 and $200, and they'll just release that premium for $100 more. Sounds very, very likely. All right? But here's what's going to happen. They are going to replace the current Switch and Switch Lite with new models. So Switch Lite would be V2. The Nintendo Switch base would be V3. Because, right, we already have V2 Switch right now with the red box. So there's going to be updated models for those price ranges at $300 and $200. Now, listen to why that is happening. And it makes a whole lot of sense. It's something that we probably should have thought about a lot sooner, but it makes a lot of sense. So the model for Switch Lite and the normal Switch will just improve on the current Switch model, but it's going to have some of the features that are in the more expensive model. So some things, in my mind, if there's new Joy-Con as an example, these models will have the new Joy-Con. Stuff like that. If this new model has an OLED panel, maybe that OLED panel is going to trickle down and replace in the next models. So they too get the better colors, all that jazz, better battery life, whatever. So whatever features like that aren't directly related to more power are things that are going to end up trickling down the line to new models, okay? So, in case you guys decide you want to trade in for just upgrading your current Lite or your current normal Switch and you don't care about the 4K and all that, cool. It sounds like Nintendo's going to have your back if you just want that OLED screen, new Joy-Con. All right. But it says that... well, they note that this is what they did with the original Switch after the Lite came out. Obviously, the original Switch used a shrunk-down chip, so they took that shrunk-down chip, put it in the normal Switch, better battery life, version 2. There was a security reason they did that as well. But all right, so then I ask, okay, so I said, it's a V3 model, okay. Maybe, then I said, hey, what some of those features are? Like new Joy-Cons, a bigger screen like we've already heard of. And I said, hey, thanks for this information. You just made the podcast dream. Debuting new info. Thank you so much. So Samus Hunter goes, that's right. It's important. This is something, this is like a direct quote, she says, from essentially inside Nintendo, like a corporate mantra inside Nintendo for what they're doing moving forward. So she wanted me to make sure I quoted this word for word. So I'm going to read exactly what it said, because this, according to Samus Hunter, is a big mantra inside Nintendo for the Pro and future things at Nintendo. That's right. It's important for Nintendo to have a budget model, a family model. That's right. They're calling the base Switch a family model. First time we've heard it called that. And then the enthusiast model, which is what the media is calling Pro on the market. If they can find compromises that allow them to have the features of the new models on the old ones while maintaining the same cost and price, they will, especially if it comes to the hardware components to standardize production. So a lot of it is standardizing production, not making multiple different chips. It's doing what they need to do, disabling clocks, using the fall-off chips that don't meet the standards. Okay, the aspect is important. So please quote these exact words. Nintendo said this themselves. Okay. So then I'm like, okay. So Nintendo, first off, let's just digest this for a moment, okay? This is the first time we've heard that Nintendo is maybe calling the normal Switch the family model.
That's nuts.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
because you
sure.
can take the Joy-Cons off, and does this mean like a Pro model doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons? An enthusiast
Possible.
model? But then then that'd just be a light. But then the docks. No, it's got to be detachable. They got to have detachable Joy-Cons.
I mean, it could just be the dock is. I mean, it fits in the dock with the Joy-Con. I mean, non-detachable Joy-Cons.
What if the more expensive model isn't like a separate Switch at all? It's just a box that plugs into your TV. I know I've been dismissing that as a possibility, but I'm like, I mean, that would definitely be an enthusiast model. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The only people that are going to care are gaming enthusiasts for that.
Yeah, but part of me is still thinking you're kind of getting away the core. I mean, granted, so did the light, I guess, then, so, of the switching, yeah.
What's it matter? They already got rid of it with light, so what's it matter if they get rid of it with Pro? You want your powerful box.
They made one 3DSs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of the 3D and the 2DS. They even got rid of the clamshell for a bit. The old door wedge. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't think that's what they're doing. By the way, I'm just and I'm not saying that's what Samus Hunter is saying. I'm just saying that this does kind of make me think that what if it's an enthusiast grade model. But again, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be like a Switch with a dock and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm just it's very curious that they're saying a family model, and then you have the budget model, which we always knew the Lite was a budget model. Basically, it's kind of like, here's your kid one. Here's one if you're a dad with mom with children. And then, like, hey, you pro gamers out there, this is what you want. This is where you're going to finally get your 60 FPS Breath of the Wild 2. Or something like that. Yeah. I can't imagine they're going above. I was joking earlier. 120 FPS.
Yeah,
no,
right.
No. But let's set that aside. We're going to get no 120 FPS games.
Attachable Pro Controller.
What, like a phone thing? Where it like clips on?
Yeah.
A clamshell Pro Controller? I don't know. What if, this is one thing I did think about though. What if, okay, so it's a normal like detachable Joy-Con Switch, but what if they're charging $399, it's more powerful, you get your DLSS, you get your 4K output, it adds, 4 more processing cores, it adds 4 more gigs of RAM at least, ups the memory from 32 to at least 64, if not 128. And then obviously with a new, more modern GPU. Not necessarily the most powerful thing in the world, but something that can definitely improve the output of games from Nintendo. Hit that 60 FPS. Maybe even anti-aliasing if Nintendo decides to use it. What if, in doing that, they're actually going to, and now that my train of thought is leaving the other side of my head for some reason. What if, let me see, where was I going with this? I had somewhere I was going with this, and now it's going to come back to me tomorrow, and I'll be like, oh, I need to make a video on this because GameOverJesse is yawning.
The list of the GPU, the CPU, and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What if they're going to, remember, enthusiast model, pack in a Pro Controller with it?
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy that separate because it's an enthusiast model.
Yeah.
They intend for you to play it in dock, but you can take it on the go if you want.
Yeah.
So this is like the family model is, we know you're playing it mostly portably, but hey, you can dock it and play it with your kids. This model's like, we intend you to mostly play this in dock, but you can take it with you.
Yeah. Get rid of the dog ears.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we intend for you to play this docked. However, you want to take it on the plane, you can, etc. Which also means it might have really bad battery life too. I have no idea. That's another thing to consider too.
Right.
So any thoughts on this information? This is Switch Pro stuff. Anything you want to add, GameOverJesse? I know you have your own sources over there on things.
No, I haven't heard anything about the Switch Pro, but it reminds me when I talk to a localization guy, I'll ask about if during any of the localization process, if there was like new buttons or references to like a different Switch model in there or something.
New resolutions.
Yeah,
Was it running at
because
60
it would,
FPS?
if it's being localized, like that stuff would show up in the options, you would think, to switch from maybe like a Switch Pro mode or whatever. I don't know. Like how a lot of PS4 Pro or Xbox One X or even the newer consoles has the option to switch from like frame rate to resolution. And with the 4K stuff on Nintendo games, it doesn't take nearly as much processing power to run Nintendo's games, their first party games, at the same resolution and everything that you would see a PS4 game running. Like
You mean
if they're both
1080p?
running at the same, yeah, if
Because
they're
that's what
both running,
PS4 outputs.
yeah, if you take a PS4 game and a Nintendo Switch game and they're both running at the same resolution, the same frame rate, and so they're equal there, the amount of processing power it would take for the PS4 game is a lot more than the Switch games. So with the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X, they were their mid-gen consoles or whatever. So comparative to like the newer consoles, they're not even really that powerful because they're not able to even run a lot of the games at full 4K. A lot of it's like checkerboarded or whatever, but there are a few games that do run at 4K on the like the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X. The GPUs that's in those consoles you can buy really cheaply for like a computer. So if Nintendo went out to purchase like a mass stockpile of those types of GPUs to put in a Switch Pro, it really wouldn't be costing them that much more than they're probably already paying for the current APU. And the processing power it would have, they could even buy a cheaper one than the PS4 Pro, and it would easily be able to run like Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild at 4K and 60 frames. That's not counting any DLSS or trickery or checkerboarding. No, just full 4K 60 frames. Because the Nintendo games really do not take that much power to run them when you compare it to the same generation of PS4 games or Xbox One games. So people thinking that the Nintendo Switch Pro or Nintendo Switch 2 would have to be really expensive to run Nintendo games in 4K? No, not at all. It would be very cheap for Nintendo to do this. Especially since the GPU that's in the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, those are GPUs that are like years old now. If Nintendo bought a new processor that was on par with that, they could buy like a low to mid-gen processor that would be just as powerful as that mid to high-end processor from 4 years ago or however long ago it was that those consoles released. So that's one thing that I wanted to add is that everyone's saying that it would be super expensive. No, it would be cheap. It would be incredibly cheap. It'd probably be
the
equivalent to the
processors
price.
in those systems are 8 years old. They actually are. They're actually technically worse processors than are what's in the Switch currently. There's just more of them. That's the crazy thing. Like everyone always makes fun of the Switch, and it's like, well, do you enjoy playing PlayStation 4? Yeah. Well, okay, that tech is even older than what's in Switch. So why are you complaining about the Switch? Because it doesn't output the same visuals. It's using mobile tech, which has always been behind because of thermals behind what's happening in a console space or in a obviously PC space as well. I think what's interesting though is you mentioned they are really old, and mobile has way surpassed the capabilities. I mean, just look at if you just look logically, like look at what's happening with the Apple M1 chip. People are editing 4K video footage with that thing.
You can buy new gaming tablets that are more powerful. Tablets, again, gaming tablets that are more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah, they're expensive, but they're out there.
Those are tablets.
The tech exists. So Nintendo doesn't have to go for those kind of specs. As much as I would buy $1,000 Switch, and maybe if I pay for half of it, I can convince Eric to get a $1,000 Switch.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a sponsor.
That's
Sponsors.
The thing, though. I think Nintendo. But that's the thing that I was saying, though, is like, I think Nintendo could get this processor to make it on par with the PS4 Pro, still sell it at the same price the current Switch is, and make profit. That's how cheap it would be for them to do this.
Yeah, and what we have to know is that there's that one report out there that NVIDIA themselves, they want to kind of phase out the Tegra X1 processor, at least certain versions of it. Maybe not every version right away, because Nintendo still wants, the newer, shrunk down one. But I think NVIDIA is trying to convince Nintendo, hey, you need to get off this process. It's taking up room.
You had a great video talking about that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it sounds like they're not getting rid of all the Tegra X1s. They're getting rid of the OG Tegra X1. They're going to be done making that, which they were using still in some Shield TVs. And the shrunk down one, they're not getting rid of it yet, but it sounds like they want to get rid of it within 2 years. So they're kind of giving Nintendo a runway to be like, hey, look, we obviously NVIDIA knows what's going on, because they're probably the chip makers behind the new Switch. And they're going to be like, hey, we want you to switch to this for everything. Get off of this 16 nanometer, 20 nanometer chip that we don't want to make this anymore. It's taking up semiconductor space. It's taking up manufacturing lines that we can make more chips for cheaper and make them quicker if you would just switch to a newer technology, which I think NVIDIA is pushing them. I think Nintendo's complying with the Pro, and I think that's why you see Samus Hunter bring up, hey, the goal is, even if it doesn't happen ASAP, if the Pro comes out before they update the other models, it's going to be one of those.
Eventually,
but they are going to update the other models, and they are going to use all the technology is essentially going to be the same. It's just the chips, just like you see with different CPUs and computers, right? Ryzen 5000, Ryzen 5600, 5700X, 5900. There's different tiers, but that's all the same architecture. And I think that's what they're trying to get Nintendo to switch over to is. I think Nintendo's just waiting on pricing, right? I think they know we can do the more powerful Switch at 400, but it's hard for us to switch out the hardware yet in the OG Switch and the Switch Lite if we have to raise the price to compensate. So I think Nintendo's like, okay, NVIDIA, how many years until you can get that price down? Oh, is it just 1 year? Are you telling us by the end of 2022 you can have the price down? Okay, we can maybe swap hardware then or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the feeling I get from this.
That is the strategy Nintendo's had in the past of trying to get the cheapest thing out as possible.
Yep.
While still having quality.
Yep. And Nintendo cares very deeply, by the way. And this is one reason why we're maybe even getting a Switch Pro. Also the fact that Nintendo has a history, especially with handhelds, of releasing more powerful systems later. I mean, going back to the DSi, even before that, Game Boy Color. Mm-hmm. Game Boy Color needed more power to produce those colors. So while the games maybe didn't graphically look better, they use that power to help push colors out. So,
and I want to say really quick, I won't go through all of them, but aside from the Wii U, every single handheld and home Nintendo console has either had a second version that was an upgrade for it, like the Game Boy to the SP, or Game Boy or Advance to the SP, DS to the DSi, whatever, or it had an optional way that they meant to upgrade it, like the SNES with the Satellaview, the N64 with the disc drive,
64DD, yep.
Yeah,
and even back in the NES days, right? This wasn't necessarily more power. They didn't necessarily have more powerful hardware, but they changed how the hardware worked from top loader to side loader, trying to get the game. So you guys remember how you had to wiggle and blow in the games, and they always said don't do that, but that would be the only way you can get your NES games to work, even back then. Nintendo improved upon that with different designs over time with the hardware to kind of change how the hardware interacts with that cartridge, to try to make it a cleaner connection every single time. Yeah, it's funny because we complain about it, but to this day, NESs still work. Many other systems don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly, as much as it might suck to blow in the cartridge, a wiggle, or have to get some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip out to wash, hey, you know what? It still works. So they built something that lasts. So you might have to change the batteries out on some of the cartridges to keep game saves, but, I mean, that's just battery life. That's normal. At least it's not like PlayStation with the CMOS. Let's not go down that road. Poor Sony that builds systems that they just intentionally don't want to last, so you have to buy the new ones.
But that's the reason that I'm 100% behind you on this one, Nate. Because again, aside from the Wii U, every single console has had a way to upgrade it, add features, or whatever. We listed a bunch of them, but even the GameCube that a lot of people don't think about, it had expansions to add online multiplayer. It had expansions to let you play the Game Boy Advance games. It had other random weird expansions.
It had a DVD version in Japan, maybe.
Yeah, so like literally every single console. So for the new Nintendo fans that are like, oh, Nintendo would never do something like that, or all the people said like, oh, Nintendo would never release a Switch Lite, and then they released the Switch Lite.
A Switch that doesn't switch?
Yeah,
I remember Eric and I saying that sounds dumb, and to this day I still don't own a Switch Lite. By the way, I still think it's dumb.
Yeah,
but for $200,
that's why I'm behind you on this.
And now that I have kids, you know what?
Right,
they should be playing $200 Switch Lite. They don't care about playing on TV.
Right,
but for me. I'm sorry. Switch it doesn't switch. Ass. Next.
Next. You say that until the Pro doesn't
Zelda
switch.
One. There's gonna be a Zelda one. And I'm like,
or the enthusiast model doesn't switch.
At least I could hold a Zelda
Lite,
like a Zelda Switch Lite during a video and use it as a prop. I suppose.
Yeah. But set it up on the desk for the podcast.
Here you go. All right. So. The last subject we have, at least from Samus Hunter, because I do want to briefly talk about the game that Nintendo dropped on us today, and why it caught people off guard, and why maybe it probably shouldn't have caught you off guard, and why so many people don't understand it or know what the hell it is. But we'll get into that in a bit, because are you a real Nintendo fan if you don't know about this game? You don't know what it is? Because, I mean... Am I gonna put that on? Am I gonna put that on the fans and start judging them? Are you really a fan? If no. You're into what you're into. You're not into what you're not into. I can't blame you for not trying things. But we have information on Virtual Console. You heard me right. No. Nintendo Switch Online. What's that? It's trash. Throw it out.
Probably nothing after this.
Throw it out. It's garbage. Nobody wants it. Nintendo's not getting rid of Nintendo Switch Online. The fundamental changes are in the works. Again, according to Samus Hunter. So, here's what happened. All right. Oh, one last note. Hold on. I forgot. Because I asked about Switch Pro, like, release timing, right? You know, because, like, I'm like, okay. You know, I get it. You don't know, like, specs or anything. You at least know, like, release timing. And they said it was originally planned for this fiscal year. Supposed to be late 2021. Could be delayed to 2022. What they are waiting on right now with the Switch Pro is they are about to go into mass production this summer, which that lines up with Bloomberg talking about when they were going to get those OLED screens, mass production in like June or July. So they're going to start making, million units a month or something starting in July or whatever. Okay, fine. Getting ready for launch. Here's the thing. The Nintendo is waiting. So this is why Samus Hunter is saying if you think we're hearing about Switch Pro at E3, Samus Hunter is saying probably not. Nintendo could change their minds, but probably not. Because, according to what Samus Hunter has heard, Nintendo is waiting to see if there's hiccups once they hit mass production. They want to make sure when they announce this that they could definitively say it's coming now and not have a COVID-related delay.
They're gonna have they're gonna have the stock for the people that want it.
Yeah, basically, they have the orders on hand. Like, the orders are in. They're supposed to get X amount. But what happens if one of the machines goes down? Mm-hmm. What happens if COVID shuts down the factories again? Mm-hmm. Like, there's unknown factors right now that Nintendo's waiting to make sure that's taken care of. This doesn't mean there won't be shortages. Doesn't mean it won't be scalped to hell. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to find one day one. Because we all know what happens with launch systems. This happened even before COVID. It's just worse with COVID, right? So, again, Nintendo is in a wait and see to see if there's any hiccups once they start mass producing. Assuming there's no hiccups this holiday. If there is some hiccups, early 2022. But here's another reason that we won't hear, that they don't think we're going to hear about E3. Said, don't expect any announcements at E3. The plans were about the announcement, from what she has seen, are supposed to happen this summer. So it is supposed to get announced this summer. June technically would be this summer. But they are wanting games already announced and presented, known by the public, ready to go, that they can then tout when they reveal this system. Look at how much better this game is on this system. So what they're saying is they want E3 to come so they can show you Breath of the Wild 2. So they can show you other games coming later this year. And then in July or August, I think September, to be honest, because that's around the time they announced the Lite. Then they released it 2 months later. I think it's going to be a similar thing to that if it does come out this year. Nintendo wants to wait. You're all hyped. You have your pre-orders in. And then they're going to be like, oh, by the way, hey, you're hyped for Breath of the Wild 2. Don't worry. OG Switch player, you can play it. It runs great. Everything you saw in this game at E3 that you loved so much was running on a normal Switch. But now you can get 60
really
FPS.
Cool. Nintendo did have something big planned for this summer after E3, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So then, now here's Breath of the Wild 2. And by the way, why do we care about the Pro model? Oh, Nintendo's just going to casually throw 4K out there. They won't explain that, it's like DLSS, but they'll make you think it's native. They'll pull the PlayStation 5 box that has 8K on the box, and you're realistically not going to get 8K. Who has an 8K monitor or TV besides like the super rich?
Right.
Like no one's even going to experience 8K content. And the system, I'm going to be honest with you guys, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X barely have enough power to actually do native 4K. Don't even worry about 8K. Okay? 3090s that are $1,500 GPUs that are significantly more powerful than what the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are can't really do 8K well. So, just say it. It's all marketing spoof. But you're going to see Nintendo toss out 4K, and you're going to say, oh, it's 30 FPS on the normal Switch, 60 locked on the new. Mm-hmm. And that's the marketing pitch. Nintendo actually using graphic capabilities and FPS capabilities, which when has Nintendo ever... when's the last time we remember Nintendo is play with power? What was that, GameCube days? N64 days?
Actually, there was an interview with Reggie on like ABC, like Good Morning America or something, where he actually bragged when the Wii U first came out, saying that it was the most powerful system or console that was out at the time.
At the time. It technically could argue it was. It could argue it was.
Yeah.
I was like, it's weaker than the 360. Nah, it's not weaker. It's a different architecture, which made it more difficult
I read something that so the Wii U had 3 cores, but each of those individual cores were a lot more powerful than each of the individual cores in the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. It was just they had 8 cores where the Wii U had 3. So even though each core was more powerful, the total sum of those 8 cores ended up being far more powerful than just those 3.
So while we're still technically on the topic of Switch Pro, we had a couple $5 super chats pop off from Nintendo Academy.
Oh.
One of them said, I don't think it's going to be called the Switch Pro. I'm thinking more like Switch Pro, Switch Plus, graphics screen size, and who knows what else. So basically bigger screen size, better graphics, and who knows what else, and then it'll be called like a Switch Plus. I'm thinking, I hate to say it, but new Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Or new Nintendo Switch XL or something.
Talking about the family model and stuff that would have, or that could potentially have some of the upgrades from the Switch Pro, but in like just changing the base model, I could see that being called the new Switch, since it would be similar upgrades to that of the 3DS to the new 3DS.
But the new 3DS was a more powerful model. That's my point.
Yeah.
They actually had just a separate thing that was just 3DS XL, and then they had the new Nintendo 3DS XL.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 3DS had so many revisions, guys. 3DS was nuts, and if they're doing that with Switch, I'm on board. Nintendo Academy, they had another $5 super chat happening live. This is live. You guys are listening to this on all of our places that we have the podcast available, which is pretty much everywhere. That podcasts are available. Sorry you didn't catch it live. We will probably have a couple more live podcasts before E3. You're going to want to tune in for E3. We're going to be talking about the E3 stuff here in a bit, what's happening here, some of the sponsors we have, what you guys can expect, all that jazz. But let's get to Nintendo Academy's $5 super chat. It says, great discussion. Nintendo is, in my opinion, the most innovative gaming company of the 3. And I think we know what the 3 means. The home console companies. You could just look at their consoles and the controllers. I think the controllers it's kind of a sidebar just because it was brought up in a super chat, but I think the controllers have always been, ever since they kind of got to GameCube, right? Which is sort of like what we have on Switch at this point. It's sort of like the standard controller at that point, moving forward for everyone. Slight variations, sticks, offset, not offset, etc. Nintendo has done some interesting things with the Wiimote and all that, but I don't know that these these quote unquote innovations that Nintendo does with the controllers. I mean, let's think about this. We're in 2021, and what's the best controller to use with the Switch? A standard controller pad, just like we did back on the GameCube. So, like, for as innovative as Nintendo is, bottom line is all those innovations have kind of been flashes in the pan. They don't stick. They don't last. So, like, as much as it's cool it happened, like lightning in a bottle, as an example with the Wii, stuff doesn't last. Like, what sticks around is what people like. People like traditional controls. That's not saying that things haven't happened. Like, because of Nintendo, we have gyro aiming with a Pro Controller. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, not Nintendo specifically. They do it in Splatoon, but other companies take advantage of the gyro aiming now. So sometimes there's FPS games on Switch that have gyro aiming that aren't on the other systems that don't have gyro in their controllers. So, like, that's a really cool thing. Now, other companies are starting to add those features as well. And obviously, like the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller is probably one of the most innovative controllers of the modern. Like, if you think of a modern age controller, because this is like when you talk about Nintendo with controllers, they've done a lot of like one-off experimentation, but bottom line is they always come back home, because coming back home is where we want to be. I think the most innovative controller at the moment is DualSense, because it didn't take away what you love about the controllers, right? It's still a standard controller, and if you just want to use it that way, you can. But it took that experience to the next level. And if you don't own a PlayStation 5, which, let's be honest, maybe 5 people in our audience do, you might not understand what I'm talking about. But the rumble, it makes HD rumble in Switch look like a toy. The rumble is so much better. So intuitive. You could feel grains of sand trickling through the controller. Grains of sand. Forget shaking ice cubes with grains of sand. Yeah. The pressure. What do they call them? The pressure on the
triggers.
On the triggers. Insane.
Yeah.
Now, yes, the controllers, the triggers especially, aren't built to last. They used a plastic spindle gear. There's already people who have broken it. That's one thing. Sony doesn't necessarily build things to last. But you want to talk about innovation. That is where controllers need to be going. Xbox, same old controller. Nintendo, same old controller. I mean, there's not what's so different between the standard way we play with Switch and the Wii U Pro Controller? Not a whole lot. Now, I'm not saying there's not extra features. There is. HD Rumble as an example. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think the controller things that Nintendo has done since they got to the standard with GameCube has mattered. Anything else they've experimented with has been just that. It doesn't stick. But that's my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think? That's my take.
I think you mentioned the rumble being a lot better on the PlayStation 5 controller, and that could just be to where there's more space in it to have better, like a better quality rumble. If the Switch Pro came out, I would like to see it have an innovative controller, but one that is still like a traditional controller, like the PlayStation 5 or even the Pro controller on the Switch now, but having more innovations, like taking the triggers away from the main controllers. No, it's horrible. And then you put Sunshine on the console, but you don't let it have like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it feels weird.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, though, like with the HD, with the Rumble and stuff like that, I mean, wasn't it Nintendo that came up with it? It's Sony just kind of took that and kind of made it a little bit better. So you could argue that Nintendo had the innovation, Sony just made it better.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but look at it like this: Nintendo gets credit, a lot of credit, for this hybrid concept of home console on the go, but also being able to use it with your TV.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't originate that idea. It's been around for a while. Heck, the Vita could do it. Is it like Sony came up with that? If you want to give anyone credit, Sony did it first.
Right.
And they didn't technically even do it first. This whole idea has existed. I mean, technically, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. There was a thing called the NVIDIA Shield, not the TV. There was an actual portable system that could also hook up to your TV from NVIDIA using the same tech that's in Switch, before Switch. It just didn't take off. It didn't have the brand recognition, didn't have the IPs to push it. So like,
and it could connect to your computer to stream games from your PC as well, I think.
Yep. So like, even a lot of the innovations that like Nintendo's credited for, they were just perfecting ideas that were already out there. Now Rumble is interesting because I don't know how much Rumble is really advanced until we got to HD Rumble. And the reason people usually don't care about HD Rumble is there was so few games that even bother to try to use it. They just treat it like standard Rumble. So like for most of the Switch games we play, we don't really even notice. I mean, the game that it really stands out on, there's like 1-2 Switch, which I mean most of you guys haven't played, so it is what it is. Can't blame you. It's actually a really fun party game. But again, it's it should have been bundled. That should have been bundled in with the system, and then everyone would play it, and everyone would understand what HD Rumble is. And then there's been a couple indie games that have used it very well, that it actually adds to the immersion. But if you think about all the biggest games on Switch, Mario Odyssey, Smash.
Nintendo's not even using it.
Yeah, like Nintendo doesn't really even use it. It's kind of like the Wii U gamepad. Like, oh, we have the second screen. Like, well, we'll slap our inventory on it. Okay, but like, we were seeing all these cool ideas before, and none of them came to fruition. Your developers don't even really want to use this thing? No. So it's like, oh, we have HD Rumble, but did you talk to your developers? And if they actually... It feels like one of those ideas they tacked in just like the IR camera. Like, did you actually talk to your developers and be like, do you actually want this?
You're right.
And I get it. The IR camera was technically also used in Labo with the camera accessory. But even then, it's VR. You could just use motion controls. You don't really need the IR camera.
Yeah.
You could just do gyro for that. So I feel like sometimes Nintendo tacks in these ideas, and I wonder if my theory is, okay, they wouldn't let Miyamoto design the system, but he wanted HD Rumble and he wanted that IR camera, so they threw it in. Where they could have removed them and gave us, something else or a headphone jack.
Yeah.
But
what would have been actually really kind of cool though is like in Breath of the Wild when you're running around, you could feel the footsteps in the vibrate. When you're walking,
like in Astro's Playroom. That's what it is. You can tell when you're running on glass. And what's really cool. Okay, this is something also that we need to give. By the way, not the first time it happened. There's a speaker on the DualSense controller. And so, like, not only do you feel the texture of what you're running on, you can hear the little tink, 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 the little splash, splash, splash in the wall. And it's this whole immersive experience that I want in Breath of the Wild.
Right. And
I want to feel the world I'm in.
Like if like a Hinox chucks something at you and it hits the ground next to you, why is
some low rumble?
Yeah, why are you not
as your character's going like this?
Yeah.
The low rumble, like your character's.
Why do you not feel it in the ground? I mean, there's so much stuff that they could do, and maybe they will do.
With current HD Rumble, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe they will.
I doubt it.
But
I doubt it.
I
think they've written it. They've written it off.
Oh yeah.
We'll just use it like basic Rumble.
Just thinking of that though makes me.
So Kevin Phillips points out that the GBA connected to the TV ages ago. Do you mean like in games like Four Swords Adventures? I don't remember GBA directly connecting, unless you mean the attachment thing to like the consoles. But maybe there was there. I could be misremembering. I don't remember outside of games like Four Swords Adventures where you plugged it directly into GameCube.
Right.
That they're actually like you could play GBA games on a TV, besides a separate attachment for the systems. I personally don't recall it. Maybe you're right, Kevin Phillips. Thank you so much for the $2. I don't know everything.
Right.
I'll always admit that.
How much longer can we string out not talking about Virtual Console?
For as long as I want, baby. So many people want to know where's the VC talk? What is happening?
People are hating on us right now.
No. Okay. All right.
Should we finally get them what they want?
I don't know. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to talk about Virtual Console? because you guys are going to be excited. You guys are going to be like, no way. No, Nintendo won't do that. Nintendo doesn't get modern technology. Nintendo doesn't know what they're doing. Have you seen the Nintendo? Have you seen the lack of the ability, even with a phone app to voice chat, that you can't text people on your friends list on Switch? Have you seen that Nintendo has no idea what the hell they are doing with their online matches in Smash Bros? Look at the DCs. How the heck are they going to have a Smash tournament at E3 when they got to do it all online and it's just going to be nonstop DC fest? Or you're going to see people lagging across the screen on purpose to get wins?
Yeah.
How the hell could Nintendo actually do something good with Virtual Console? Hell, was Virtual Console ever good? Remember, you bought the games individually every generation. Every generation. Oh, on Wii U, you could go into Wii mode. You want to play it on your Wii U? Pay an upgrade fee. Okay, so I'm just rebuying the game.
Yeah,
cool.
right.
So Nintendo doesn't get it, right? They're ass backwards. They don't know what they're doing. Well, here we go. Okay. So I'm even a little bit disbelief.
So about that HD Rumble.
I'm rereading this, and I'm like, I'm in disbelief. But then I start thinking about what they've been doing lately with the current Nintendo Switch Online service with the NES and SNES app, and I start to go,
yeah, okay.
It's lining up.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't have been giving Nintendo as much flack for not updating those apps as often. Here we go. So Samus Hunter says, I got this information in October, and I haven't gotten any updates since. Doesn't mean it's not happening. It could just be something that's a little bit ways off. But there are plans for paying for individual games to have them unlimited when it comes to the NES and SNES. So, the plan is supposed to be that by the end of this year, Nintendo was going to launch systems beyond the NES and SNES, so N64, and systems. So are we getting Game Boy? Would they dare go GameCube? Wii? They have they have a huge back catalog, right? That is just sitting there, not being touched. All right. And they're going to make it available on Switch, but they're going to do it through what Samus Hunter is calling a brand new virtual console. However, they aren't going to use the VC name. They feel like the VC name has its own separate reputation. What they're doing with Nintendo Switch Online has its own different reputation. It's going to be something new. It's going to have a new name. Okay, it's going to be a separate service from what's happening with Switch Online and what happened with old school virtual console. So let's get more into this, okay? So they're going to be adding more systems, more games. They're going to be allowing you to purchase those games individually. Sounds like virtual console, right? What's the big deal? All right, so here's the deal. It says, Nintendo has long been thinking about how to expand subscription services to have a steady influx of revenue, but Nintendo also feels it's important to not limit the supply of games to a single method of obtaining them. And this is because they have seen the backlash in other parts of the industry that everything's locked behind a paywall service and you don't own it. So Nintendo wants to give you the old school way that you could still buy these games or subscribe to our service. So I'm like, okay. So I said to Samus Hunter, so to summarize the virtual console stuff, they're looking to expand the current service into more systems and either keeping it part of the Switch Online since that's already a service they have or separating it out. And then I mentioned, kind of like what Microsoft does with Game Pass. Not exactly Game Pass because Game Pass gets obviously brand new games, but it does have a back catalog of old games as well. And then I'm like, oh, they're looking to offer these games for individual purchase as an option, which is also true with Game Pass. And he says, yes, but to be clear, Nate, this will not be tied to Nintendo Switch Online. This will be its own separate service, separate subscription service with optional ways to purchase every game individually. And it's going to include NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and DS.
Oh boy.
Mic drop. Now, does note that's not necessarily all going to be there right away at launch, obviously. Nintendo's going to trickle ad. But
mic drops don't work with boom arms.
No, mic drops don't want to. The boom arm don't want to go. The boom arm don't want to go. The boom arm don't want to go. So, couple things here. One, I know that Nintendo's getting rid of Nintendo Switch Online. I don't know if they're going to keep the NES and SNES things on there as like a legacy, which they might just keep it on there as a legacy thing. But obviously, there's a couple things here. One, Nintendo will now have 2 subscription services, right? You have Switch Online, and then you have the optional. I mean, Switch Online's optional unless you want to play online.
I was gonna say they're still gonna need the Switch Online because
if you want to play any of Nintendo's online,
they're not gonna get rid of that option.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you want to play, you can play Fortnite without it, but like, you can do that on other systems too. You want to play online, just like on the other systems.
I don't know if PlayStation does it, but Xbox has multiple subscription services. Like you can get their gold membership, or you can get
PlayStation has PlayStation actually has a similar. So there's PSN Plus, which PSN Plus is how you get they're like free games they give you every month. You get PSN Plus, and then there is a separate, I forget what it's called. There's a separate service they used to have another service for TV stuff. They don't have that anymore now, but I think they're actually trying to bring it back as something else. But they have a separate service that you could play their old school retro games over streaming. Okay, so PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, you could stream some of their games, and they have a service for that. So it's kind of like an xCloud, but it's just for their retro games. So they also have multiple subscription services. Microsoft obviously does as well. You got Xbox Live, and then you got Xbox Live Gold, I should say, and then they have Game Pass, and then they're gonna have xCloud. So that's gonna be 3 different services. Although if you get, I think it's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, they call it. That combines Gold and Ultimate together for a slightly cheaper price. So you save money if you just bundle it together. And I'm sure that's going to be true with xCloud. They're probably going to have another tack $5 on more. Now it's $20 a month, and you can have Cloud, Game Pass, and Gold together or something. I'm presuming that's what right now xCloud's free on everything that it's on, but it's in beta. I highly doubt Microsoft is just going to offer that service for free. They could, because they could say, hey, yeah, you can access xCloud for free, but like you want to play all our games, you got to get Game Pass. But
to support your leak,
here we go.
There is a history of other consoles.
PS Now. Thank you so much. Noah Hankel in the chat. Thank you so much. It's called PS Now. That's the game service.
Yeah, that's where you stream the games, right?
Yeah.
Or am I mistaken?
Nope, that's the game streaming for Sony.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so there's a history already set with the other consoles have already been doing this. So it would kind of make sense that Nintendo would follow along.
But Nintendo never
every
follows.
Other main console is doing it, then
that's the thing. Nintendo doesn't do this though. And the thing is, I feel like if Nintendo's going to do a Game Pass like thing, I mean, where's the catch?
Yeah.
There's always a catch with Nintendo and online anything. So, like, where's the catch? And right now, some people in the chat are like, oh, the catch is, oh, my God, I got to pay for 2 subscription services instead of 1. Oh, my God, did you really think you were going to get N64, GameCube, DS, Game Boy Advance, maybe Wii in the future for $10 a month? Or $3 a month or whatever it is? Did you really, $20 a year? Did you really think that you were going to get those on Nintendo Switch Online at that price?
Yeah, no.
I mean, let's be real here. And wouldn't it be cool if you don't want to pay to play games online that, hey, you could still pay to access Nintendo's retro library? Now, my curiosity, and Samus didn't get back to me, I was saying, hey, is there a plan to make this forward compatible? Because that's the big thing I want to know. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, if you get the service, obviously the service is forward compatible. They'll just carry over the service to the next system. But if you buy the games individually, like Virtual Console, can you carry those over? Like, is that something Nintendo's thinking about solving the problem they had with Virtual Console in the past? Didn't get a response to that yet. Probably because the details aren't known yet, because it's pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly it's supposed to be launching this fiscal year, and I would assume that was supposed to be like a big feature launch with Switch Pro, being like, hey, we're just slamming you this window. This is huge.
Is that their E3 announcement?
I mean, I could see them announcing the new service at E3 because it's not going to affect game sales.
Right.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. Never mind.
It's the last 20 minutes of their presentation.
No, I was going to say, like, if they had something else, like, maybe after E3 during the summer.
Yeah, true. I mean...
Well, there's going to be more directs, and... I mean...
We'd hope.
As we saw, they did a Nintendo Direct earlier this year, and they said in that Direct at the end, we're going to have more of these this year. So, like, they were kind of letting people know, okay, last year was kind of like a fluke, COVID. We're back.
Yeah.
We're back, baby. We're going to have more of them this year. So, and then what happened? You know? They're back at E3. Which, by the way... it's funny because, like, unless you attend in person, E3 from Nintendo really shouldn't feel any different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, besides not seeing a crowd in the background, like
Yeah.
Nintendo is already built for this, for a digital E3. It does suck. In person's great. Obviously, get to see GameOverJesse in person instead of having to go through Discord. Get to play games, hands-on impressions of games. Yeah. It's sad that if Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this holiday instead of next holiday, that I don't get to play it in person.
Right.
I would have got to play it in person this year, damn it.
Oh,
right.
I don't know if they would do it, but at past E3s, Nintendo always had a some weird deal with Best Buy, to where you could go and play some of the remote games at Best Buy.
Yeah, they were doing that lately.
Yeah,
not all of them. Just select.
Yeah, I could see them maybe doing that, but then again,
I don't know. With COVID, I don't know if they're gonna.
Yeah, that's why I don't think.
Yeah, they might consider too risky of a PR move to do that this year.
They could have like a limited, like, here's a demo that you can download, but it only plays for,
I think they have a Miitopia demo right now. I think Nintendo's going to lean more towards, hey, we're going to really focus hard on getting game demos out this year that you can play at home to kind of make up for the fact we can't do those public things, we can't do E3. So while we typically would never give you a Zelda demo, we'll give you a Zelda demo, and it'll be the opening area, and your progress will carry over to the game or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Age of Calamity, they did something like that.
Yeah, Age of Calamity, and I think that's kind of I think Nintendo foresaw that because that happened last year, where it's like, hey, at least for the next year or two, let's give people demos at home that carry over. Miitopia stuff carries over, so it's kind of I think Nintendo's kind of getting that flow where, no, you might not necessarily get a bunch of demos to play during E3. Okay, don't expect that, but you very well might get, demos trickling out throughout the year before games come out that you'll be able to try. I don't know if they're going to give you a demo for Zelda. That would be very unusual because they've never done that.
But we're in
uncharted territory.
Right.
So.
With the Zelda game, at least, anyways.
So thoughts, guys, on the supposed plan for Nintendo's Virtual Console future. What are your thoughts on it? Because this is fundamental change over anything they've ever done. This is almost like giving everyone what we asked for originally, but now giving it to us after we got used to just paying for Switch Online.
Go for it, Jesse.
Yeah, I was just going to say really quick, I think it's an amazing idea if they do it, and especially if they do it separate from the online service for the people that just don't care about playing online, but they would care about playing the games from their childhood without having to deal with the online service and stuff. So I think that would be really great for them, and especially if they go back to some of them and add in weird features, like they updated some of the games on the online service to add online multiplayer or something.
Yeah, that'd be
like having Double Dash, like a GameCube game with online, that would be insane. And if they put it on there for $20 or however much, it would sell almost as much as a normal traditional game would, and it would just be a quick online update for an emulated game, basically.
Nice.
Maybe it's a bit more complicated, but it's just taking the same idea they had with the NES and Super Nintendo games and then applying it to N64 or GameCube games. That's what I would love to see from it, but the idea in general, from what Nate said, is really good. I'm looking forward to it if they do it, and hopefully there might be, if there's not time for it at E3 or something, then maybe some event after E3 during the summer.
What are your thoughts, Eric?
Super excited if it actually, comes out the way that it kind of sounds like it's going to come out. But to a certain extent, until I see it come out the way we hope when it's coming out, it's Nintendo. So I'm always kind of waiting for the butt to drop. And,
that's kind of like with Mario Golf Super Rush. It looks great. Where's the butt?
Where's the butt? Yeah. And
there was a butt with Super Mario Party. It looked great.
Right.
Mario Tennis Aces, fantastic. We played it on D3.
But,
oh my God, this is amazing. And then you play the single player and you're like, oh, there's the butt.
There's the butt. And Nintendo sometimes has been known for their butts. And so, greatest
tune in to E3
ever.
2019 if you think that's, or 2019, 2021. See, look at that.
Yeah.
Tune in live.
Yeah, tune in live for 2019. That's impressive if they can do that.
I know, right?
But until it actually comes to fruition and we see what it is for what it is, there's always that part of me, and I hate to be cynical, but at the same point in time, that's kind of who I am. I'm waiting for the butt.
And what a nice butt it'll be.
Yeah. I have a feeling that, is it going to be, again, kind of, I know they're switching to new server tech.
Yep.
So is this server tech going to be, better than what, they're, and
it works really well in Monster Hunter Rise.
So,
but
they got to get to that point, though, where they're fully towards that, though, before I think they can release this, because on their old server tech, I don't know if they can handle the amount of people hitting that server.
Who says they even use the same? I mean, I have a feeling they would just team up with Google or Microsoft.
And that very well could be possible.
To provide any sort. Well, again, it's not a streaming service, though, right?
Right.
It's a subscription service. You still download like an app like we have now to access them all.
True.
So they're still technically all downloaded on your system.
True.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's been a lot of talk about that weird partnership with Microsoft and
everyone's partnering.
Nintendo getting ideas or tech from them to help out with server issues.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Switch has been in the background of how many Microsoft
Oh my God,
videos.
Phil Spencer just... Jeff Grubb, you bastard. You had to say that everything in the background for Phil Spencer, including the Switch, means something. And then here they have this big Xbox event, and it's not even Phil Spencer. And what do they have? A Series S, a Series X, and a Switch. It's like, God dang it. Well, you're literally putting Switch at the same level as your systems, which means there's clearly a
something.
It's got to be. I don't know what it could be besides xCloud. I'm sorry. The only way it could be on the same level is xCloud, and then your Game Pass will work on xCloud.
Unless it's not like an xCloud, it's like an Attend Cloud where Nintendo.
Oh, what would that be?
It's not necessarily Xbox games. It's a similar service, but it's straight Nintendo. It's not.
Or it's just Nintendo Cloud. And it's really just xCloud reskinned.
Right.
Nintendo offers their games, and you can optionally subscribe to Game Pass and get Microsoft's as well. Microsoft doesn't care. They want their games on everything. Why would Nintendo say, no, we don't want your games on our system?
Yeah.
So I forgot his name, but who's the president of not Xbox, but Xbox Live?
Oh.
Phil Spencer, right?
Well, Phil Spencer he runs all of Xbox.
Okay.
Xbox Live.
When Daniel and I were at E3, we were like 10 steps away from him while he was going on and on and on talking about how much he loved Nintendo and Nintendo Switch.
Was it Phil Spencer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone knows Phil Spencer at this point. He might not have been the head of Xbox at that time. Because he had a title. So when people think he took over Xbox, he still technically wasn't the top dog. Not like he is now. He just took over for, I think it was Don Matrick, who, had no idea what he was doing. Let's just be honest. And then he didn't really get the power to do anything with Xbox until about 4 years ago. And what's happened since then? Studio acquisitions like crazy, xCloud, Game Pass. All of this happened recently, and it happened after Phil Spencer was given the power to do this. And given he's literally only answers to the CEO of Microsoft. There's nobody else above him when it comes to Xbox. Anything he wants to do, he wants to buy something, just goes to the CEO and says, hey, what about $7.5 billion for ZeniMax and Bethesda? Here's your blank check. Have a good day.
You're right.
Like, that's how much the CEO of Microsoft believes in what Phil Spencer is doing. Because what happened is the CEO, apparently in a meeting, admitted to Phil Spencer that nobody at Microsoft understands gaming. And it's like, well, your pitch to me is that you can turn Game Pass into Netflix?
Well, I mean,
okay, what do you need? Netflix had, because Microsoft's acutely aware, because they invested some money in Netflix, how many billions of dollars was sunk into Netflix until it just started turning a profit this year.
Right.
So Microsoft's aware, yeah, it takes a lot of money to turn it into a profit, but once you get there, the profits are astronomical. So when Phil Spencer pitches that, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't gamers want to be able to get all these games cheaper, and then in the end, we just make bank in 10 years? Like, we can afford to do it now. Microsoft, they shit out $7.5 million. I mean, they just had their financial report, and they had like $15 billion net profit last quarter. Okay, that already paid back what they just spent, and then they made $7.5 billion on top of that. So, like, $7.5 billion is nothing to Microsoft. It feels weird saying that because, Nintendo only has $9 billion in the bank. Microsoft's a different level, guys.
Oh, Microsoft's not just gaming though, too. So
yeah,
there's also that.
Let's just say, have you heard of a PC?
Right. I mean,
yeah, Linux is a thing, but let's just be real. It's like 95% of the market's Windows.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a PC? Have you heard of business servers? Have you heard of Outlook? I don't know why businesses still... Well, I guess I understand. You don't want to have everything hosted by Google and other companies.
Yeah, and I was reading a thing that it's like almost every laptop or... not tablet, but there are a bunch of tablets that do have a version of Windows, but every laptop or computer usually has a version of Windows on it when you first buy it. It's already pre-installed. And Microsoft gets so much money from the company that produces the computer for allowing, because they have to pay to have the Microsoft Windows on it. So every single computer that you see on the shelf or at someone's place that has Windows, even if that person's not directly buying a Windows key from Microsoft still gets so much money for every single computer and laptop.
Well, yeah, all these laptop makers, they all have deals with Microsoft. They pay Microsoft to put Windows on their platform.
The user's paying for it in the long run. It's built into the price of the PC, but I mean, you just don't see it broken out. They're paying for.
People don't want to buy a computer that doesn't come with the OS.
Yeah, they're paying for.
They just presume. Oh, yeah, of course I get Windows with it. Why wouldn't I?
It's just built into the laptop price.
Yeah. But that's money that people don't think about,
right?
Really?
No, yeah.
But Microsoft still making millions and millions every single day just from that.
And apparently they make the most money they make from the company, at least based on the financial report, comes from their business servers. People don't realize Microsoft servers are the backbone of multi-billion-dollar corporations the world over. Windows Server. Like, you guys all know about Windows, the PC, Windows 10. Windows Server Edition is running some of the world's biggest supercomputer, super server farms. Like, all these businesses. Like, why do they sell this Outlook? Yeah, maybe the Outlook app is flawed. But the reason they use Outlook is because it integrates so well with Windows Server. So they can control their own emails internally, not on Google servers or No, we have our own servers, and we run Windows, and we pay Windows, and we pay them to serve us. And my dad deals with a little bit of email migration, and I can't go too much into what he does, but it's just a thing out there. Windows dominates the business world. Yes, there are some companies that go all Apple, but they always run into issues because the problem with all Apple is everything they put in the cloud. Cloud's not always available 24/7. Local server, as long as you have electricity, you have access. So, and Eric knows too. He deals with some stuff too. So, like Windows, they make they're huge. Now, let's talk about some exciting stuff here. And I'm gonna put GameOverJesse on the spot because I actually haven't had this conversation with you. It's about E3. I keep mentioning I need to talk to you about E3, and then I just never talk to you about it. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here in a moment. No pressure. So we are doing a massive show during E3, right? We've talked about it on the channel a couple times, but we have a big crowd here. We got 240 plus people. We were at 300 plus at one point. Wow. Our E3 show, guys. Let me tell you, we peaked today at 328 viewers. 29. 29. We peaked at 329 today. If that is the entire crowd that showed up to our E3 stream, every single one of you would win something. I have more to give away during E3 than the number of people showed up to watch this stream live. I want to make this clear to you guys. We are putting on an event. This is not your standard, I'm just reacting to Nintendo's thing. I'm just reacting to Microsoft. We're reacting to Ubisoft even though we got to mute half the thing once Just Dance comes on. Like, this isn't your standard channel just reacting to the stuff at E3, which we definitely are doing.
We're doing that.
We are doing that. But it's built within a show that we will be putting on. 2-hour pre-shows, long post-shows, post-day podcast, maybe even daily if I can pull it off. We'll see. I got to get past day 1 to see how exhausted I am. I'm not going to commit to it being daily. There will be a podcast at least at the end of the 4 days.
Right.
Or at least at the end of Nintendo's day for sure. Because I already have HMK who is committed to being on the day that Nintendo shows, being on the end of day podcast for that. So like we are putting on a show. Okay? We are not just going to sit there and talk about video games. We're going to play video games. We're going to play against you. And if you beat us, you win prizes. You want a $99 Nintendo Switch eShop gift card? I don't know why Nintendo cuts it at $99. Beat me in Smash. You're not going to. But beat me one-on-one in Smash. I'm practicing, by the way. Anyone who's seen me play Smash knows I'm not very good. I'm going to be good with at least one character.
There you go.
By the time E3 comes around, and I'm going to defeat all. But if you beat me, you win a prize. If you beat Eric,
that means I'm buying Smash.
No, you don't. Well, if you want to practice,
yeah.
Yeah, like it won't just be Smash, right? We'll have Mario Kart. We'll have Splatoon, 1-on-1. That's right, 1-on-1 Splatoon. Oh, not so exciting. Oh, until $100 is on the line. You want to talk about exciting?
Yeah.
That's stuff we're doing during E3. Eric and I will be facing off against each other in some games. Loser gets punished. I can already tell you one of the punishments. Hop chip challenge.
Yeah.
But there's going to be other punishments as well. Still fleshing all that out. Within reason. Someone put out there they want a loser during losing one of the matches to put on a tingle suit for an hour. We'll see. We'll see.
Sure,
I did
maybe.
see it is actually reasonably priced. I can get a Fat Man tingle suit.
Nice.
They do exist.
Well, isn't that a tingle
And I have
suit?
helium in the garage, and I have a red balloon to tie onto.
All right.
So I'm just saying, okay, it's possible. That might be one of the punishments. But there's going to be entertaining moments. We're going to have a bunch of giveaways. We're giving away systems. We're giving away Pro Controllers. We're giving away Skyward Sword Special Edition Joy-Con that come out in July. We're giving away Skyward Sword HD. We're giving away Mario Golf Super Rush. We're giving away a ton of stuff. Special edition Zelda hoodies that are officially licensed and don't exist to purchase at retail anymore. Brand new. Got 2 of them we're giving away. I'm giving away an E3 Zelda coin from 2016. I got 1 left to give away. And then 1 for myself. I'll never give away the 1 for myself. But I got 1 still sealed, not sold, sitting here, giving that away. Can't even get those anymore. Unless you want to spend like $100 on eBay. Beyond that, we have other collectibles as well coming into play. We are partnering with companies. Several of them. Here's one that might excite you. Ever heard of Devolver Digital?
Digital Devolver.
No, it's Devolver Digital.
Isn't it? Oh, okay.
Ever heard of Devolver Digital? I don't know. I mean, they put on one of the best E3 live shows every single year. Ever heard of them? How would you like, I don't know, a copy of Carry On? I'm just throwing that out there. Exit the Gungeon? I don't know. What about Hotline Miami, the entire collection? Let's just say we have 50 copies of digital Devolver games to give away. 50. 50. That's already, like, monetary-wise, bigger than any giveaway I've ever done at the channel. Just from one company. That's just one. Oh, it gets better. Ever heard of Frontier Games? I don't know, just a little known company that makes Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. We're giving away copies of that, along with 2 other games from them. Oh, let's see here. We are giving away. I got lots of emails here.
We should almost just make a list of this.
I have a list, but I don't want to access it because
Got
it has keys on it.
Got it.
So I don't want to risk that. Oh,
No,
this
yeah. No,
just in case someone spies a key.
I
No.
get you. I get you.
I'm being careful. That's why I'm in my email
I get you.
and avoiding the key part of it.
Question.
Yep.
Being vague.
Yep.
In your emails, did you receive an email today from a specific company about something in summer?
No.
That's okay.
No, I did not. You
All
could tell me about that later. Apparently you did.
I don't think I can tell you.
Oh, you can't tell me. Dang it. That's sad.
Nobody heard anything.
Nobody knows. Have you guys ever heard of Children of Morta? Or Morsha? I always forget how you pronounce that one. 85 plus Metacritic rated
You
game.
remember the tweet that you commented on earlier that was talking about something exciting or whatever?
Yeah. I have no idea
had to
what
go
you're
and
talking
delete
about.
Yeah, I had to delete that, even though it didn't say anything.
Yes. So he's basically teasing he knows something, but he can never talk about it, so it doesn't matter.
Maybe
Nice.
Friday.
Oh, is this after Nintendo announces their stuff?
I'm
not saying it's from Nintendo. I'm just saying that like that's what's supposed to happen this week. We're supposed to get Nintendo's E3 plans.
Oh,
Something like that.
No. I don't know.
He's like, I gotta
have
be
a
careful.
meeting- I have a meeting Friday, and then I'll know what I can talk about.
Gotcha.
Boy. Why didn't they include me? You want to know why? You have almost 100,000 subscribers. I'm a peon over here. I'm a peon.
You're the one partnering with all the different.
Yeah,
places.
but a lot of them
I
are
thought
indie studios.
maybe
Indie
this
studios
small
love
company.
partnering with people.
Yeah, this is
still.
a small studio too.
Okay.
But still.
I mean, I did get one today. It was Devolver Digital though, and it was just about my E3 stuff. It wasn't for a
Nice.
meeting.
Okay.
So that the Devolver Digital was the new one today. You guys ever heard of a company called JF Games Team? They make Heroes of Hammerwatch Ultimate Edition. We're giving away a copy of that. And more. I'm not going to go through all of them because I literally type in E3 and I mean, I've 40 different companies I'm talking to just to put that in perspective. And by the way, I also am currently in talks with Ubisoft, Capcom, 2K, and Square Enix. Nothing locked in with them yet.
Doesn't
But
necessarily.
none of them
mean
have
anything,
said
but-
no. They might be partnering as well. I think what happens is because they're bigger studios, so they're kind of like researching my channel. Like, is this guy safe to be associated with?
Yeah, they also may be trying to see who else is reaching out for partnerships and
Maybe.
and seeing if there's a little bit more bigger, more known channels that reach out and because
I also happen to have a direct contact with the team behind Ninjala at Gunho. So I'm just saying there could be something happening there. Remember, Ninjala Switch exclusive.
that is something that we have not played in a long while.
You mean you have not played?
Yeah, that's very true.
You just beat Breath of the Wild. Let's be honest.
That's very true.
So that's just some of the things. Beyond that, we have actually partnered with an Etsy person who makes really, really awesome custom wall lamps, and I mean like the sickest of
these things are
Oh
amazing.
my god, they're like this big. Like this is a Triforce one. Oh my god, they are sick. All handcrafted. They're like $100, $150. The most expensive one's $200. We're giving away 5 of them. We will have them in person to show you guys and be shipping out. That's right. Not everything's like digital codes, right? Digital codes are easy. We have companies sending us stuff. We have partners sending us stuff. We are going to have a lot of stuff on hand. The problem with our set is I didn't build anywhere in the set to put stuff. I didn't think about that. So, depending on how much stuff shows up at my house to show off during the thing to give away, I might need a whole nother tape. I don't know. Okay, I might need like a bin that's like the size of this room to fit it all. There's so much stuff, guys. I literally have at the moment 345 different giveaways happening during E3. Just do the math. Do the math on that. What is that, like one giveaway every 10 minutes? Not even?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Every 5?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, some things will give away multiple things at once, of course, because it's impossible. Literally, we wouldn't even have E3. It would just be 4 straight days of giveaways. So we have to like obviously package things together. Like if we have 10 codes for a game, we're not going to split up 10 codes. We'll just all 10 at once, 10 winners, right?
Yeah.
But you'll be able to enter. You got to be there to win, though. There will be no winners. Like if your name gets drawn and you're not there, it's all happening while we stream. There's no sign-ups for it ahead of time. You got to be there. If you want the link to enter, you want to know how to enter, you want a chance to beat us and win prizes, you got to be there. Now, I understand. Not everyone can be there for 12-plus hours of live streams 4 days in a row. That's okay. I realize that. Just come for a little bit. You want to watch the Nintendo stuff on your own? Cool. I got no problem with that. But make sure you come back so you don't miss the giveaway that happens immediately after. Because I already can guarantee something I know about from Nintendo that I can't talk about, we will be giving away right after Nintendo's thing's done. Eric's looking at me like, what do you know about? Oh, it's already planned into the budget. Because, yes, it's being paid for. We have out of pocket. It's already planned into the budget, though. So, be excited, guys. This E3, you're going to want to be at Nintendo Prime. Now, as for putting GameOverJesse on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
So, one thing I didn't talk about yet because I didn't want GameOverJesse to feel left out for a moment is we are going to have special guests coming on throughout our live stream on all 4 days to talk about things happening at E3. Because, again, this is a show. It's an event. It's not just entertainment and giveaways. Conversations. What's my channel about, guys? We talk about games. We talk about the hardware. Obviously, we're going to want to react to it and bring in other people. So, Andre's Restart is already going to be coming on, and I was hoping GameOverJesse might want to come on for some of it. Now, you have your own stuff, I'm sure, going on, your own reactions and stuff, obviously. Just like HMK does. That's why HMK decided, I'll come on after and be on the podcast. Okay, fine. Mad respect. HMK literally said, I wish I wasn't a YouTuber and I would come on. Like, when I told him what's happening, he's like, holy shit, dude. I'm like, yeah, just come on mine. Let's do a joint event, HMK. Yeah. Come join me. But no, he's got to do his own thing on his own channel. That's fine. So, GameOverJesse, the invite is extended right now, live.
Yes.
Will you come at least one of the days at one time at some point to talk?
Yeah. Okay, so as long as it's not for the Nintendo Direct, I will be there, and I'll be happy to be there, even if it's Ubisoft, Square, PlayStation.
Well, it doesn't have to be even during the things. It could be before. It can be after.
No, I can come on.
Yeah, what he's saying is, whoa, dude, your show's crazy. I got to be there during.
Yeah,
I got to be there. Well, it's going
Sounds
down.
awesome.
All right.
Besides, if it was just me doing a reaction, I'm a very boring robot. So my reaction, even during the Breath of the Wild 2 reveal, everyone knows how big of a Zelda fan I am.
You didn't have a heart attack like me?
When it got revealed, was just like, I just raised my hand. I was like, yay. When everyone else in the room was just screaming.
Yeah, dude, I literally fell over. And
I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out of the hotel with how
I was so loud. I was so loud for my reaction. A noise complaint had to be made, and they'll be like, right. No, these are regulars.
Yeah, right.
These are regulars. Yeah. They're fine. They pay good money.
So I'll be happy to be there with whatever.
With some other ones. Cool, awesome. So we got GameOverJesse locked in as well. I am talking to some other YouTubers. Obviously, the big thing with having other content creators on, guys, is this is E3. What do you think they're doing? They're making content and live reacting to things too. But, again, we have others that have said, let's wait till the schedule comes out. So we could see there might be a section during some of the days when like maybe they don't come out. Like Jesse will come on for like Ubisoft or whatever. But like if someone wants to come on to say react after Nintendo, well, what's the schedule look like? Like what's the treehouse? What's the this? What's the that? And then see if there's like a spot and they were like, okay, yeah, I need a break from my channel anyways. You know, let me grab a bite to eat, then I'll pop on and like Andre's Restart. You know, he wants to come on. I think he said for like an hour, so we'll see. I told him I was only looking for 15-minute segments, but he wants to be on for an hour and watch me get my ass kicked. That's his choice. Because one of you guys are gonna kick my ass. One of you guys is gonna like. I'm gonna get embarrassed so bad in Smash I might ban it for the rest of E3 and then play something else I'm actually good at. But no, it's gonna be good fun, guys, and I hope all of you 200 plus people make it out to the show and spread the word. Because the only way this show is going to work, the only way the show is going to be the biggest and greatest E3 show is if everybody does their part and spreads the word. We are a community. I am doing this for you. This is over $3,500 worth of stuff committed, and it's growing by the daily. I literally spend half of my days dealing with business emails, talking to companies, sorting out funding for things, trying to make this all happen.
I mean, let's put it this way. I'm sitting at work, and my phone's constantly going...
Yeah, because I'm keeping Eric up to date because he's the co-host. Like, he's got to know what's going on. And we don't even have it fully organized because we can't organize all of our stuff until we have the E3 schedule, right? So, like, that's why it's like, not only am I excited for Nintendo to announce what they're doing, I want to know when they're doing it so I can build my schedule that day around what's happening with Nintendo. Because, obviously, for us, Nintendo's the biggest deal, but we're reacting to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because we always do.
Yeah.
So, this is going to be wild. I want all the prizes. A few people said this. Bring on the Donkey Kong! Yeah, dude, DK, man. I would love a DK reveal. 40th anniversary, baby.
I still want to see a little bit of DK Animal Crossing, but mainly just the bongos. Play some DK bongos in Animal Crossing.
Clear up a couple things in the chat. Somebody said, if you're already subbed, you can't win the giveaways. No, of course you can win. What are you talking about? Yeah. Don't worry about it. I know a lot of people are wondering, how can I enter the giveaways? Well, I can't tell you how because it's not time to enter. Just be there. Yeah, you'll need to be subbed to win, of course, but that's a side dish. Just be there. When it comes to someone said, man, isn't your E3 going to be quite chaotic? So, one, great beauty can come from chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes the best things in life come from the most chaotic of moments. And I feel like the most chaotic of moments are going to be live reactions to whatever the hell Nintendo drops. Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. I mean, I might attempt the worm and break everything on the desk. I'm so excited.
And in your body.
In my body. Yeah, probably that too. I may try to backflip off the table. And
we're going to have to set up a webcam in your hospital room as you're all casted and
but
have
no.
body parts
So,
hanging up.
Here's the thing. So for people who man, it's going to be chaotic. It's not. We are going to have a schedule. Okay? The schedule, I don't know if it's going to always be public facing, so you guys can know what time things are happening at, because the schedule will need to adjust.
No, it's going to flux.
It needs to be a little flexible based on what's happening live, because we don't know all the announcements happening at E3, so we need to have some flexibility in there for what's happening, right? Like, oh, Nintendo's done now, but something big's happening during Treehouse. Well, we got to push things back. We got to deal with this Treehouse stuff right now, right? Like, so we have to be sure that we're flexible. But I can tell you this, the pre-show fully mapped out. Basically every 15 minutes there's something happening during the pre-show. Not necessarily a giveaway. Could be a competition with Eric and I. Could just be we have special segments for certain discussions on certain games.
Special guests.
Special guests. Like, again, everything's going to be organized on our end. Some of it you guys will see. Some of it you won't. But it's going to be awesome. When I tell you guys, this show I'm putting on, one, it's something I've never done before. But it's something I'm very confident that I know what I'm doing. Because I've been covering this industry a long time. I've got all the equipment I need to lock this all down. I've got all the money invested in the set that I need to do. I got all the money paid out and taken care of to take care of our various stream layouts. Some of you guys saw a teaser of those stream layouts a couple days ago when I was streaming. You saw some of those layouts. They're really badass, aren't they? They're really cool. I think they're really cool anyways. We have Grant Kirkhope providing music for our event. Didn't know if you guys knew that. I have actually talked about it before, but how many people watching knew Grant Kirkhope, the man, the legend, the myth? It only gets better if I could team Grant Kirkhope with David Wise. And then, you get Koji Kondo involved, and it's just the trifecta of my childhood. But we have exclusive music from Grant Kirkhope being used during our streams. So I'm just saying, this is huge. It's bigger than anything I've ever done. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm nervous, but I'm nervous.
Excited, nervous.
For you guys. Because you guys have no idea what's about to hit you. This is wild. I've even upgraded the internet in my house to a business line. I'm trying to make sure nobody around me gets priority but me. It probably doesn't matter because it's Spectrum.
You're not.
But
wrong.
since I've switched, I have not had my internet cut out one time. Now, knock on wood, because it's the first time it'll happen is half of E3.
Yep. Or we blow a fuse.
Which, by the way,
talked about that
Yulia's
too.
trying to make me have contingency plans. She wants me to get a second internet service in here so I could flip a switch in case it happens. And I told her, see, this is Yulia. She's thinking ahead. She's thinking, okay, you need a backup.
We're gonna need about 6 generators then too.
I know. We're gonna knock out the power lines. We better make sure we have generators on call.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be a wild show. I hope you guys all tune in. GameOverJesse, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Yes.
Anything else you want to cover before we go?
No, there's everything was good. I'm just hoping
your meeting
Zelda
on Friday goes well.
Anniversary is rumored. I hope it comes. What was that?
I'm like, what? Your meeting on Friday goes well? That's what I'm hoping.
Oh yeah. I hope that goes well. But just all the rumors and leaks of the Zelda 35th anniversary. I just hope something happens with that, because for the 35th anniversary we need something like the Mario anniversary, and so many people have been asking for it. So I hope that happens. I hope the Metroid Prime gets announced for all the Metroid fans, and I hope there is at least a small tease or something, confirmation of the Switch Pro. So those are my 3 big things for E3, or if whatever, anything happens like at a later direct.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was really great being on here.
Do you have any upcoming content you want to let people know to come check out?
Do I?
Do I? Or is it all waiting for your Friday meeting? I mean, I know you have the podcast next week.
Yeah, we have the podcast next week. I'm doing videos like I normally would. Just theories and top 10s and stuff. It's just going to be cool.
He's got some stuff in the works. He just doesn't want to tell you what and when. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. Or can't.
Go to GameOverJesse's channel.
Can't.
Or can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could be a can't.
Yes. If you head over to my channel, I know Nate is giving away the entire world, but we're also doing a small giveaway comparatively on my channel.
But it's cool because you're giving one every 1,000 subs on your way to.
$60 eShop card for every 1,000 new subscribers until we hit 100,000, where we are giving away a Nintendo Switch, Skyward Sword, and Amiibo.
Nice.
I mean the Joy-Cons as well.
And for people watching live, I am linking GameOverJesse's channel in the chat right now. If you guys can go check it out and subscribe.
Thank you. And there's several videos on the channel that also features Nate as well, so you guys can go on there.
I don't know. Is this where I admit that I'm so busy making content I don't actually watch other people's videos?
Yeah.
But I do come on your podcast sometimes. No, here's the thing. I obviously watch your videos because I make follow-up videos to them. But I can't remember the last time I was mentioned besides when I popped in a live stream. I feel like it's been a little while over there.
It was great seeing you pop in last night. We had
rated
someone
you.
who you rated
YouTube
us. You
rated.
gave us a super chat as well. Yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing. Everyone came in and was like, "Oh my god, it's Nate."
I was like, "Let's push him to 170." We hit it. We did it.
Yeah. But yeah, just thank you, and the invite for the E3 thing. I would love to come on to that. Whichever presentation or after show talk you would like to do.
Sure. Yep. We'll get that organized. Again, right now I'm just trying to get people who are saying, yeah, I'll be part of it, and then we'll organize when they're all going to do it once we know what the actual schedule is. It's guys, we're going to know the whole E3 schedule like in the next 3 weeks from all the companies. So,
right.
We'll have a good idea, and then we'll be able to set our schedule because I'm telling you guys right now, 2 hours before anything ever happens at E3 on all 4 days, we're live with our pre-show. No matter if it starts at 8 in the morning, we're live at 6. Which I really hope it's not 8 in the morning. I'm hoping they go off Pacific time and it's like 11. That's better for me.
Right. But
so I was wanting to add in really quick, since there is a couple of months left until E3 begins, and you have this huge giveaway. Since you invited me, you are more than welcome to come on the Highland Gamescast, either of you. And
I'm always game. Nobody ever asks me. I swear I never get asked.
Use rumors, but also to promote your big giveaway and let everyone know, because I'm sure that'll get a lot of people over to this place.
Yeah,
as well.
your podcast episodes, I've been noticing getting a lot of viewers live for a while now.
It's been getting more since we started scheduling them. And we had like over 100 waiting for one of the scheduled things, but we had a bunch of technical issues. So then we were like, since there was 100 people waiting and we hadn't even started yet, maybe we should start scheduling them more often. And instead of getting like 50, it's been closer to like 200. So
probably
nice. Not quite up to your stream here today.
Yeah, this is unusual.
Right.
I'm letting you know right now, we've never had this many live for a podcast ever.
Right.
And I think it's because, literally, look at the title. New Switch Pro info plus new virtual... I mean, come on.
Yeah, right.
Come on. Who isn't going to come to that?
And you did. It wasn't clickbait or misleading.
No.
You had a lot of great
it took a while to get there. But it's a podcast. Guys, in the chat right now, if you're live, I'm going to link a link to our pre-show stream. That's right. It's already up, so you can go set notifications. It's set preemptively for 8 a.m. on June 12th. But, again... that's just a tentative thing until we get the schedule. But the stream is set up because, guys, we all know notifications suck, right? So as many possible ways as you can get notifications, which means you should subscribe, you should hit the bell icon, set it to all notifications. But you could set an individual notification for our pre-show. So when it goes live, hopefully it works. I don't know if it will, but hopefully it does. So I'm going to put a link right now in there. for our day one, so you guys can go set notifications for that. Otherwise, go check out GameOverJesse's channel. He does a lot of great stuff. His Zelda knowledge is beyond my own these days. There's probably a time when we were equals. Now, I've been covering everything for too long at this point. If you can't tell, his podcast is literally called the Hylians Gamecast. I mean, come on now.
To get a little sentimental here, when I first, started talking to you or found out who you were, since you were the one basically running Zelda Informer, and I looked up to the website, and since you were the person running it, obviously I looked up to you, and then when I started talking to you, I started getting more respect for you because I was just at the time writing for like Zelda Dungeon or Zelda Universe, and I was really liking Zelda Informer. So when I started talking to you, it was like almost like a role model figure, because like you were in that position that I would like to be in the community. It was like when I first started my channel, or even before it, when I was just writing on Zelda websites, and that's never went away, even though you have the different website now.
You're a bigger deal than me. What are you doing? What are you doing over there? You outgrew me.
Well, you outgrew me. Still, it's the same thing. Like whenever I talk to you, it's still like that almost nervous feeling you get when you're talking to someone that you have a lot of respect for and you look up to, and
I appreciate
like you're still that person. So being a bit sentimental there, but yeah.
No, I legitimately I appreciate that. I always wonder, like, I don't talk to a lot of people back from those days anymore for reasons that we're not going to get into on this podcast. I kind of had to force myself to disconnect, which I didn't want to do. But it is nice. Like, you're one of the few carryovers from those days that I still actively talk to here and there. And like, I could even tell, like, when we met in person, a couple times at E3, and like, you're just so happy at E3. Like, you talk about how quiet you are. You ain't no quiet at E3. You're like, you are riding the high of life at E3. I swear, you are like beaming. Like, your fan base might think, "Oh, GameOverJesse doesn't have energy." I've seen it. Don't even.
Right. If you would have been around us whenever Daniel and Chiblima and everyone else came to get me after I think it was the Bethesda E3 press conference, I was loaded.
Shout out to Cat Bergeson in the chat, everyone. He's part of the Hylian Gamecast. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. Go check it out. He does game streams. He also does occasional video uploads over there. And also, for those who don't know, Cat Bergeson, talk about a small world. He actually used to work for me at Zelda Informer, and then he technically was part of my journey to becoming a YouTuber, because him and I were the ones making all the plans at Zelda Informer in like 2016 to try to be like, hey, we should really up the video content we're putting out on the YouTube channel. This is kind of like the future. This is where things are going. And Daniel was the one with me helping me do that, not just with like the podcast or something, but actually putting out content. Still to this day, the Dragon Break video on our channel is still one of our most viewed videos, and Daniel made that back in the Zelda Informer days. He's an awesome guy, and he literally, like, honestly, this is how cool Daniel is. He's just like GameOverJesse. I could have, let's say I have, like, I don't know, Game Over Greggy is going to come on, right? He's going to come on and be on one of our podcast episodes. But something comes up, cancels, 5 minutes to go. I already have everything set up. I'm ready to go. Oh, crap, because I will not do a podcast without a guest. I'm telling you right now. But I could literally text Daniel like that. He'll show up. Same for GameOverJesse if he sees the message in time. Like, this is the tight-knit community and how small it is in this Zelda community that sticks it out. I'm sure RMFH would be the same way. I don't know why I don't talk to him. I should really talk to him more often. Because he knows all about me. Because, like, RMFH knows more about me not because, like, he worked under me or like that, but I helped his YouTube channel grow. Like, I did so many Zelda YouTube channels back then. When Zelda Informer was a big deal, we were looking for content to post every day, and I was the one that sat there and I said, you know what's happening on YouTube right now, right? There's so many crazy Zelda theories. Why are we not posting about these?
Yeah.
And we helped all these channels get their start, which kind of sucks because, like, some of the channels have gotten quite big, and now that I'm a YouTuber, they won't respond to me. But I guarantee you, if Zelda Informer was still around and I was running Zelda Informer, oh yeah, they'd talk to me because they'd want me to send them views. It's weird. I'm not going to call anyone else specifically. Maybe in private, Jesse, if you want to know, but I'm not going to call anyone else specifically.
I probably already know.
It's just, it's fine. People don't have to shout me out. I don't really care about that. It's more so, man, I really thought we had like an actual relationship. I didn't realize it was just like you're just using me. And that's one thing you got to be careful when you're in this industry, whether it's YouTube or running websites or any social media stuff. A lot of snakes in the grass that are just looking for the attention, and they don't actually. And that's why I like Jesse when you're talking about how even to this day you still look up to me. It's like it's touching, man. That like we go way back, and you're just. It's not about the views. It's not about the audience. I could have 10 people watching. You're going to be here and have just as good a time. You don't care. It doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah. Really quick in the chat, someone said, what about Zeltic? With my experience, Zeltic, he's always been kind of quick to get back to me in messages. We used to be part of the group Chamber of Sages. We used to collaborate a lot. And then we kind of went our own ways. But even though like we go months without talking, like whenever we went to E3, the entire group, like Commonwealth Realm, Zeltic, Dr. Wiley, like all of them, Daniel or Chublima can tell you how many messages I was getting from them asking for me to come hang out with them or have dinner and stuff, because it was like every couple of hours, but we were busy, and then finally we had time to go out and have this big dinner, and we all talked and had a lot of fun.
Not like me.
A lot of those people are really, really good. So Zeltic Ed is definitely one of the good ones, although sometimes he is a bit hard to get in touch with. But he usually...
I think when I go to E3, you're like the only person, you and Daniel, try to get a hold of me to like at least say hi.
Yeah.
Literally nobody else. There was only one other time, and it was Cody at Zelda Universe wanted to hang out for a bit. The first E3.
Cody is a king among...
Yeah, Cody's quite... I got to get him on a podcast. Let me tell you, you want to be entertained. I could literally just sit back and just let him talk for 2 hours. I'm not even kidding, guys. He's awesome. Maybe I'll introduce you guys to him sometime. I got to see what his schedule's like and what's going on. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was Nintendo Prime Podcast episode number 7. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully I'll see all you guys at the next episode. Also at E3. GameOverJesse, we know we'll be talking other times, especially if you can actually talk about what happens on Friday after your meeting. That would be... I like to be privy on things. That's okay. And hey, if you're a company out there that was watching this podcast and you would like to partake in our E3 giveaway extravaganza, my email is nathan@nintendoprime.net. Let's hook up. Let's make it happen. Let's make gamers happy as we start to come out of this pandemic. Let's start it good and give feel-good stories for hundreds, hopefully thousands of gamers. Catch you guys in that next episode.